Hi, welcome back, everyone. This is your friend Greedy Fanfics, bringing you another fanfiction. Today, we're diving into the first part of What If Deku Was a Pokemon Master. All credit for this story goes to the original authors, so please support them by checking out the link in the description for more details. Don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more content like this. Now, let's get into the fanfic. Quirks made a big difference in people's lives ever since they first emerged. But with the involvement of Pokemon, everything grew even more chaotic, even changing the planet in the process. The Pokemons acted the same as they were in the game, popping out of nowhere to challenge people in certain areas. A lot of places became wild Pokemon zones, mostly forests and other outdoor places. The biggest concern were the NPCs, the notable characters that served important purposes in the game. The world government was in uproar in how to handle their appearance. But over the years, people and Pokemon came to grow on one another. A new way of battling where it incorporated a person's quirk was established, along with events for Pokemon trainers. Technology also advanced greatly with the emergence of technology from the Pokemon world. A few could only wonder how the world would develop with Pokemon by their side. Izuku woke up from his bed with a tired yawn. Another day in an unfair world. In a world where quirks decided the majority of a person's future, Izuku was quirkless. Izuku wasn't an NPC, he was just born unlucky. But that didn't discourage from his dream of being a hero. A hero that saved people with a smile alongside his Pokemon, if he had one. Sadly, they weren't allowed to buy a Pokeball until they turned 18. And unlike the lucky ones, Izuku wasn't born with a legacy Pokemon. Pokemons that get passed down by their parents. A main example of this was Yaoyorozu family, who had a Gardevoir or Galate as their legacy Pokemon. Every generation of their family would receive a Ralts at the age of 5 to train alongside their quirks. But Izuku already knew that the world isn't fair, so just got up to prepare for his day. After leaving his room, Izuku was greeted by his mother's Mr. Mime as he made his way to the living room. He saw his mother making breakfast. "Good morning, Izuku," Inko greeted him. "Good morning, Mom," Izuku replied as he sat down for breakfast. Izuku ate quietly, unaware of the crazy day ahead of him. This is the story of how Izuku became the #1 hero and Pokemon master. Everybody already knows how this goes, so let's make this quick. Arriving to school to receive the usual insults like being called Deku and other things, nothing new there. Getting to class only to get the same treatment, also nothing new there, bummer. Get out of my fucking way, Deku. Ah, there's Bakugo. An old friend that thinks he's the center of the world. Izuku can't wait for the day he gets a reality check. Everybody take your seats. And the good-for-nothing teacher arrives as well. I wonder how he plans to avoid doing his job this time. A video presentation? Self-study? Or another day of praising Bakugo for acting like a villain? Feels bad for his future Pokemon. Well, everyone already knows the shit's that gonna happen, might as well get to it. If you really want a quirk, why don't you take a swan dive of a roof and pray for a quirk in your next life? He tells Izuku to die every day. Does he really think hearing this shit is gonna work on him? Well, he was goddamn right. The waterworks were already on its way anyway. With a few silent tears and depressing thoughts, Bakugo and his goons finally left Izuku alone. Leaving the classroom to get the notebook, Bakugo burned and tossed out the window, and Izuku was on his way home. And like any version of Izuku, a peaceful day was never an option. A blob of slime suddenly trapped Izuku, trying to suffocate him. A medium-sized skin suit, just what I needed, the slime spoke. It can talk, so it's not a Pokemon, Izuku thought. Look for a weak point. Izuku looked around with his eye that wasn't covered in slime, then he saw it. An eyeball floated around the slime. Izuku reached for it, and squeezed. Ack! You piece of shit! The slime villain yelled in pain, letting go of Izuku. Oh, the irony of that statement. Have no fear, I am here. All Might's booming voice rang through the tunnel. With a mighty punch, All Might blew up the villain all over the tunnel. Izuku wondered if holding back was ever a thing for All Might, while he didn't seem like the brightest anyway. Alright, unlike most Izukus in the world, this one doesn't worship All Might in most heroes. Besides, why would a quirkless kid like people with strong quirks when he lived in a world with Pokemons? Screw heroes. My apologies for getting you involved, young man, All Might said as he picked up bottle to contain the slime. Yeah, Izuku said half-heartedly as he picked up his bag. All Might didn't seem used to people not fanboying over him. Are you alright, young man? All Might asked he started containing the villain. Took him that long to ask standard questions as protocol? So much for being the #1 hero, Izuku thought. Yeah, I'm fine. I'm heading home, got this shit off me. Izuku didn't bother waiting for All Might's response and already left. A few minutes later and he already arrived home. Izuku. His mother came running at him while crying. What's wrong, Mom? Izuku asks in worry. Why, you didn't know? Katsuki was attacked by a villain, Inko explained. Izuku raised an eyebrow, who could care less about that prick, but his mother was still worried. Izuku wouldn't hesitate to save someone, even if it was Bakugo, hell, his body might even move on its own to save him. But Izuku already knew the world was unfair, and he couldn't save everyone. Izuku didn't notice his mother let go of him, and his body take him to his room. The room lacked any hero merch, and instead was covered in Pokemon merchandise. Being stuck in his room never felt good to Izuku, so he got changed and left. His mother was reluctant to let him leave, but he promised to be careful. What now? Izuku muttered. He didn't bother checking the news on what happened to Bakugo, he'll hear about it tomorrow anyway. Izuku didn't notice something following him. He arrived at a beach, well, more like a dump at this point. Hello, Izuku heard a voice behind him. Izuku saw a blonde woman wearing a white sun hat and a light blue sundress. Hello, Izuku greeted. Is that your Pokemon? The woman pointed at a Riolu hiding behind a trash bin. No, Izuku shook his head, something about woman made Izuku feel comfortable. Well, it seems to like you, it was following you for quite a while now, the woman explained. Izuku got confused. Wild Pokemon couldn't wander outside of wild zones, and the closest wild zone didn't even have Riolus. Here, the woman took Izuku's right hand and placed something on his hand. Ha! Izuku was surprised to see a Pokeball with a symbol for fighting types. Go catch it, the woman gave him a warm smile that made him feel like doing everything she says. It made him feel like a simp. He was contemplating whether that was good thing or bad thing. Screw it. Oh, okay, smooth. The woman gently pushes him towards the Riolu, who got out into the open. Izuku didn't exactly know what to do, so he just threw the Pokeball and hoped for the best. The Pokeball opened and the familiar red light covered the Riolu before getting sucked inside. Izuku watched the nerve-wracking shaking of the Pokeball before he finally heard the ding, signifying that he caught it. Good job, the woman clapped at Izuku's first catch. Thank you, Izuku bowed. Was it really that easy? Izuku thought as the woman walked closer. Here, the woman gave Izuku 2 shiny crystal marbles, an orange one with blue and red designs and one with a rainbow design. Train hard, I'll be waiting to see you get stronger, the woman gave him another warm smile before leaving. Izuku just stood there frozen. The woman practically gave him a Pokemon and some shiny marbles. The hell was that? He didn't know what just happened, but he will train hard and get stronger just like she said. And he'll start by cleaning this dump. I can't believe I got this motivated because of her, Izuku muttered. Screw it, he was simp. Cynthia, where did you go? We were looking everywhere for you. Just walked around, Cynthia spoke as she took her sun hat off. Well, we need to go. Cynthia got on her car, and just as she was about to leave, she glacéed at the direction she came from. I'll be waiting, young man, her eyes shined as she looked at the sky. Izuku had seen weird shit throughout his life, but waking this morning to some panel in his face definitely takes the cake. Train to be the very best. Reward, 5 slot tokens. Task 1, clean 25% of Dagobah Beach. Reward, 1 slot token. Task 2, clean 50% of Dagobah Beach. Reward, 1 slot token. Task 3, clean Dagoba Beach completely. Reward, 2 slot tokens. Bonus, Go plus Ultra. Task, increase physical abilities by 50%. Reward? Izuku knew yesterday was too good to be true, so he must have died, and this was a twisted version of hell. A few minutes passed and Izuku just stared blankly at the panel in front of him. He decided to get up and leave his room, hoping the panel would vanish at some point. The moment Izuku left his room, he saw his mother talking to police officers. They saw him, and the officers bowed before leaving. "Mom, what's going on?" Izuku asked in concern. "Izuku, you're not going back to school," Inko said. "What? Why?" Izuku was actually really happy and didn't care why. After what happened to Katsuki, the police interviewed the school, and some concerning matters were brought to light. "So you won't be going back there," Inko explained and walked away, clearly in a bad mood. Izuku did not want to test his luck and left after telling her. Izuku bought some breakfast at a convenience store and was forced to go to Dagoba Beach. Because the panel did not disappear. "Alright, I was planning to do this at some point anyway," Izuku mumbled as he put on some gloves and a mask. Cynthia sat in her car and is currently heading towards a meeting. Her secretary sat at the front as she explained the details of the meeting. Cynthia glanced out the window and saw mountains of garbage that surrounded the beach. Her eyes lingered a moment, then she saw him. The skinny boy he met yesterday was now cleaning the beach by himself. Cynthia smiled. "Good luck, hero." Izuku was slightly regretting this now. The amount of trash didn't seem to decrease at all, he even had Ryolo help with cleaning. He fell on the sand, and quietly just lay there for a while. "Stupid panel," Izuku grumbled at the panel that refused to disappear. "Can you even help?" Izuku whined, then he heard a ding. Raging muscles. Bonus task, Gold Rush. Clean as much of the beach as possible in 1 hour. Strength increased by 200%. Agility increased by 200%. Dexterity increased by 200%. Stamina increased by 200%. Reward varies on progress. Izuku felt a surge power enter his body. He wasted no time and rushed to clean as much of the beach in an hour. People looked at him like he was crazy, but Izuku knew when shit like this happens, you roll with it. He had seen enough Isekai anime to know where this was going. Izuku felt proud at what he accomplished in an hour, and the power-up finally wore off. He heard 2 dings, and couldn't help the smile that creeped up to his face. Train to be the very best. Task 1 completed. 1 slot token received. Raging muscles. Bonus task completed. Rewards, free spin plus growth pendant. Izuku raised an eyebrow. "Where do I use the spin?" Izuku asked in confusion. Just then a slot machine popped out of nowhere. Might as well, Izuku pulled the lever. The machine spun, and Izuku kept watching until it finally started to slow down. Reward, plus 5 strength. Growth pendant's effect activates. Strength increased by 5. Ha! Izuku stared at confusion at the panel. Status? Izuku wondered if things worked like how it did in Isekai animes, so he tried saying status. He heard a ding and a panel popped out. Izuku Midoriya. Title, Motivated by a Beauty. Pokemon, 1. Strength, 21. Agility, 15. Intelligence, 56. Dexterity, 22. Stamina, 20. Durability, 34. Ignoring the title, Izuku thought his stats were decent. But he had nothing to compare it to, so that was still up for debate. He did feel the change strength, so from now on, Izuku would go even more plus ultra. Itsuka Kendo had seen a lot of crazy people in his life, she lived in a dojo after all. But this green-haired idiot is at the top of the craziest people she ever met. Itsuka thought he was just another moron who believed he could clean the beach by himself and his Pokemon, but now she was starting to believe it as well. 2 months have passed, and the beach was nearly cleaned. He might even finish tomorrow. Oh, the greenette began staring at nothing again. This was also another reason she believed he was crazy. Most of the time, he would just stop and stare at nothing, then make some weird facial expressions. Jackpot! The boy began dancing like an idiot. She was 100% sure he was crazy now. Izuku learned a lot about his quirk, he called it gacha. It gave him missions to do, along with amazing rewards, that were mostly random. Then there was the slot machine. The slot tokens he get are used in the slot machine, and it would give him stats or items. It also had two choices, draw 1 or draw 10. Draw 1 was self-explanatory, while draw 10 had a twist. It had a bonus item that would change every day. Izuku currently didn't have 10 tokens, so he would just watch his bonus item changed every day. But it all changes today. Train to be the very best. Bonus task completed. Reward, draw 10. Due to cleaning the beach, Izuku significantly gotten stronger. And since his stats were originally very low, increasing them by 50% was easy, except for intelligence. He had to study college books early for that. Though strength already got an early increase. ᴅᴇᴜᴛᴏ. Title, Motivated by a Beauty. Pokemon, 1. Strength, 31. Agility, 30. Intelligence, 91. Dexterity, 40. Stamina, 51. Durability, 55. Equipped. Growth Pendant. Passive, doubles the growth rate of the wearer. Finally! Izuku exclaimed. Draw 10. The slot machine began spinning, and Izuku vibrated in excitement. When the machine began to slow down, Izuku started to hold his breath. Rewards. Bonus item, Egg, Dragon. 1 Ultra Balls. 5 Pokeballs. Plus 5 Agility. Plus 5 Agility. Plus 5 Agility. 5 Pokeballs. Plus 5 Strength. Thunderstone. Plus 5 Durability. The last one shined so bright that Izuku had to cover his eyes. Reward, Motorcycle. Izuku blinked, then blinked again. He rubbed his eyes, just to check if what he saw was real. Yup, an actual motorcycle just popped out the slot machine. How can this day get any better? Growth Pendants effect activated. Agility increased by 15. Strength increased by 5. Durability increased by 5. It just got better. Izuku began tearing up at his status window. ᴅᴇᴜᴛᴏ. Title, Motivated by a Beauty. Pokemon, 1. Strength, 41. Agility, 60. Intelligence, 91. Dexterity, 40. Stamina, 51. Durability, 65. Equipped. Growth Pendant. Passive, doubles the growth rate of the wearer. In just a few months, Izuku became so much stronger. He even got a motorcycle. The motorcycle was the Renegade Commando 300, with a forest green color scheme. Izuku shed tears happiness, unaware that someone was drooling at the sight of his new motorcycle. I need to get a license. Izuku exclaimed and put everything in his inventory. Alright, Izuku gained an inventory from his quirk. Capable of storing anything as long as it could fit in a single car garage. Luck was finally at Izuku's side. Katsuki was angry, well angrier. Ever since he got saved by All Might, everything became shit. His school got shut down due to multiple lawsuits. His permanent record was being questioned. He was also forced to undergo anger management sessions. This year was hell for him. He bets Deku was probably living worse than him. Oh, how wrong he was. I can't believe I got some Pokeballs. Izuku exclaimed as he was walking home. If I could get permission to enter a wild zone, I could catch more Pokemon and train Riolo. Izuku was so excited that he didn't notice he was walking towards a villain fight. Fuck you, hero. The villain yelled as his wheezing used smokescreen. Sudowoodo used Razor Leaf, Kamui Woods yelled. His Pokemon obeyed and fired Razor Leaf at the smoke, but by the sound of it hitting concrete, it failed. The villain was going to escape, but then they heard a grunt. What the? The villain fell down as he bumped into Izuku. Hey! I'm walking here, Izuku yelled in annoyance and punched the villain on the face, and with Izuku's new strength, easily knocked him out. The people looked shocked and confused as Izuku just casually left. The villain's wheezing didn't even know what to do at that point. Izuku wondered how the egg worked. The egg he got from the slot machine sat in his inventory for a week now, no change whatsoever. Maybe I need to walk around while holding it? Izuku wondered. After all, Pokemon work like it did in the game. Izuku, where are you going? He heard his mother ask from the kitchen. Just going to test some things, Izuku replied. Be careful, dear, Inko said from the kitchen. Yes, Mom, Izuku stepped out the door with the egg in a backpack. He began walking towards the beach. Izuku began wondering if he could get permission to enter a wild zone. He needed a trainer license to enter without an adult. He also didn't know an adult with a license. Izuku sighed. I guess my quirk can't do everything for me. Then he heard the familiar ding of his quirk. Gotta catch 'em all. Task 1, catch 1 Pokemon. Reward, 1 slot token. Task 2, catch 3 Pokemon. Reward, 1 slot token. Izuku honestly thought his quirk was going to give him a way to get into a wild zone, but it just told him to catch some Pokemon. The moment he got to the beach, he noticed that he was probably close to halfway done with cleaning. The only reason he didn't think he was halfway done was because the mission still didn't give him the second reward. Stop! Izuku heard someone yell from behind the mountain of trash. Izuku ran fast and found a group of people wearing black clothes and a big red R on their chest. All of them had their Pokemon out and was surrounding a little girl with orange hair and a side ponytail. Poliwhirl, use Hydro Pump. The girl ordered her Pokemon. Salamence, protect. Green energy formed around the Pokemon, stopping the Hydro Pump from hitting. You think Team Rocket will be taken down by that weak attack? A man with the same black clothes but also wore a black jacket spoke. The girl's hand suddenly stretched and shot towards the man, but the man's clothes suddenly bursted into flames. The girl was forced to pull her hand back immediately. How? You guys can't have quirks, the girl shouted. Stupid bitch, we ain't NPCs, the man laughed at the girl's shocked expression. Take her Pokemon, and let's have some fun while we're at it, the girl flinched at the words. The grunts were about to attack when a mountain of trash suddenly collapsed and started to fall on them. Over here! Izuku called out towards the girl. Don't let them get away, the Team Rocket grunt yelled as his Salamence used Protect to block the falling trash. Riolo now! Izuku shouted, then another mountain of trash began collapsing. Screw this, Salamence, use Flamethrower. The grunt ordered. Salamence began firing a powerful torrent of flames everywhere. Some of the other grunts had to find cover as well. Poliwhirl, use Hydro Pump. The girl's Poliwhirl shot the Hydro Pump, but the flames were too strong to stop. Izuku then picked up the girl in a bridal carry, making her squeak in surprise. Izuku returned Riolu to its Pokeball, while they did same to her Poliwhirl as Izuku ran away while carrying her. They were now in clearing that Izuku already cleaned, hopefully Team Rocket wouldn't chase. You think you can run away from me? Izuku turned to see the villain riding on his Salamence in the sky. Shit! Izuku cursed and called out Riolu again. Your weak Pokemon don't stand a chance, the villain mocked. Hariyama, use Focus Punch. A Hariyama suddenly jumped towards the Salamence, but the Salamence easily dodged the attack. What is it this time? The villain growled. It's Sue. The girl beside Izuku yelled. Are you okay, Misty? The newly arrived woman asked. She looked like an older version of the girl beside Izuku and seemed to be his age. Dragon Claw. The villain suddenly shouted and Izuku was forced to block the attack himself. Both of the Pokemon on their side were fighting types and had a clear disadvantage against Salamence, who was a dragon/flying type. We need to get a hero, the woman spoke. I'll buy some time, Izuku replied. What? You can't take that. The woman argued. Just go. Izuku shouted as he ran towards the villain. He could see at the corner of his eye that the woman ran away with the little girl. Izuku heard the sound of his quirk, then a panel appeared. Pokemon egg hatched. Axu has been obtained. Dragon Master. Challenge: become a Dragon Master. Reward: title, Dragon Master. Task 1: defeat a Dragon type. Reward: Task 2: catch a Dragon type. Reward: Task 3: fully evolve a Dragon type. Reward: Task 4: own the strongest Dragon type in the country. Reward: Talk about high expectations. Nevertheless, Izuku kept on charging. Izuku was fast, but a salamence in the sky was too much, so Izuku just ran under it. What stupidity is this? The villain said as they dove down. Izuku called out his new Pokemon, and a grayish Axu came out. Use Taunt. Axu nodded and used Taunt on Salamence. The move worked and Salamence dove faster. Wait. Slow down. The villain shouted. Salamence didn't listen and even began to use Flamethrower. Izuku smirked and picked up Axu and jumped away at the speeding Salamence. The Salamence crashed on the sand, then exploded. Izuku flinched, not expecting the explosion. The smoke cleared. Izuku saw the villain unconscious a few meters away from the crater, while the Salamence fainted and turned to red light as it was sucked into a Pokeball. That was something new actually. Whenever a Pokemon that has an owner faints, they would automatically return to their Pokeball. That actually worked. Izuku smiled at his Axu. Dragon Master. Task completed. Reward, plus 25 to Strength. Growth Pendant's effect has activated. Strength increased by 25. Title, motivated by a beauty, has activated. Fight for a beauty reward, Pokemon Egg, random. Izuku blinked as the feeling of power flowing into him washed over his body. At this point, Izuku didn't need to go to a wild zone to get a Pokemon. Hey! Izuku turned to see a man with light blue hair riding on top of a Metagross heading towards him. What happened here? The man asked. Izuku pointed at the villain. The man walked towards the villain, as the Metagross stayed beside Izuku. He returned his Axu and Riolu to their Pokeball. Riolu couldn't do much against a Salamence, but it was tired after using Focus Punch to collapse the mountains of garbage. Come with me, the man said as police officers arrived to detain the villain. Izuku informed them of the other members from before, then he was taken inside a police vehicle. The ride to the police station was quiet. Izuku was simply asked questions, and confirmed he didn't use his quirk. Technically he didn't. Panels and mission isn't exactly usable in a fight, so Izuku got home without trouble. Secret challenge completed. Scot-free. Do something stupid and get away with it? Reward, selection. A panel with different items appeared in front of Izuku. He didn't know what most of them did, but he scrolled through them as he walked home. Then his eyes widened. Pokemon eggs were available. Izuku really thinks that he doesn't need to catch Pokemon himself now. Pokemon Egg, Dragon, selected. Izuku smiled as he arrived home. Izuku, he froze at the sound of his mother's voice. Hi mom, Izuku began sweating bullets. I got a call from the police station. That was all Izuku needed to hear to know that his fate was sealed. Izuku tried to lay low for a few months, going to clean the beach at early mornings, then leaving when people started wake up. He needed to avoid attention for the past week, since what happened at the beach was televised. It didn't show Izuku's face, but people were looking for who caught the villain. Izuku wondered what happened to the two girls that were with him that day. He hoped they were okay. The next thing on Izuku's mind was that he was very close to cleaning the beach completely. It may have taken longer because he needed to leave early, but the enhanced physical abilities greatly helped. A few weeks later and trained to be the very best. Completed. Izuku received a lot of slot tokens and now had 9 of them. He only needed one more so he can use the draw 10 again. That would be a huge power spike for Izuku, and with the UA entrance exam in 1 month and 2 weeks, he needed it. Steven, also known as the Pro Hero Azurite, sat in his desk reading the reports. He couldn't understand it, but people began joining villain organizations, such as Team Rocket. Dealing with the normal NPC members were troublesome enough, but now people with quirks began to join. How many? Steven groaned out as an officer entered his office. Over 20 new reports, sir, the officer answered. And Flint? Steven asked. The higher-ups declared him an upper B rank villain, sir, for having a salamence, the officer explained. And yet he was taken down by an unregistered 17-year-old. Steven wasn't underestimating the villain, but the kid who took him down was suspicious. Izuku Midoriya was registered quirkless, and wasn't from an influential family, so having more than one Pokemon was also suspicious. Steven heard a knock. Come in, Steven called out as the officer excused himself. A beautiful blonde woman walked in. It has been a while, Steven, the woman spoke. Yes, it has, Cynthia, Steven replied. Steven noticed her smile. He knew that smile. It meant she somehow got interested in someone. And he needed to listen. I found someone very interesting, Cynthia started. Shit. Izuku was running around for his morning jog. He was testing if running around while carrying the egg would hatch it, but so far, no luck. His ᴅᴜᴜᴜ also didn't show any signs of growing, but that was fairly obvious. They still acted the same as in the games, they needed to fight to get stronger. Izuku noticed something and got excited. He was getting closer to the beach, when he saw someone with familiar blonde hair. You've grown a lot, the woman gave him a warm smile. Thank you, Izuku bowed. May I ask your name? Izuku shyly asked. The woman giggled as Izuku blushed. You can call me Thaya, the woman answered. I am Izuku, he really couldn't help stuttering in front of her. Alright Izuku, why don't you tell me about your progress, the woman said as they began walking together. Oh okay, Izuku really needed to get some confidence. Hurry up Katsuki. Mitsuki shouted as she was about to go out the door. I'm already here, old hag. Katsuki grumbled. Today was the day he gets his started Pokemon, and with a month left for the UA entrance exam, he was going to train it hard. The drive to the Pokemon lab was short, and he didn't need to listen to his mother's rants. Hello, I'm Gary. I'll be assisting you today, a redhead greeted them. Yeah, whatever, just get me my damn starter, Katsuki grumbled. Mind your manners, brat, Mitsuki smacked him. Please follow me, the redhead didn't look fazed and simply led them to a room with a large machine. Katsuki stood in front of the machine, then it showed the images of every starter Pokemon. Katsuki already decided on a fire-type Pokemon as his starter, since it was well known that All Might had a water-type starter. He was going to surpass All Might even with a disadvantage. I choose this one, Katsuki showed his chosen starter. Cyndaquil, fine choice, the redhead spoke. The machine began to hum and a panel opened up. A Pokeball rolled out, and the redhead gave it to Katsuki. The ash blonde threw it, and his new Cyndaquil came out. Fiery flames blazed on its back to show off. Katsuki showed a feral grin. Izuku sat quietly in the car with his mother. Thaya told him all about the importance of choosing a starter. She told him that her first Pokemon was a Gible, then the starter she got was a Litten. So Izuku was very tempted to also get a Litten, but he also needed to consider a lot of things. Fire-type starters were the most common picks among beginners, with Charmander being the first choice. Picking a water-type starter would already give him a fair advantage, but almost everyone has at least one electric-type Pokemon with them. Choosing a grass-type starter would put him at a disadvantage with Charmander's final evolution Charizard, being a fire/flying type. He had one good option though, a Mudkip. As a water/ground type, electric Pokemon wouldn't be a problem. The only downside was that a lot of villains know how to counter it due to a Mudkip being All Might's starter. Are you okay, dear? Inko asked. Izuku didn't notice that he was making a very frustrated expression, which greatly worried Inko. Yeah, just can't decide on a starter, Izuku answered. Just choose what you want, dear, don't overthink it, Izuku spoke. I'm sure you'll do great with whatever you pick. Izuku smiled. Right. Thanks, Mom, Izuku said just as they arrived at the lab. Hello, I'm Gary. I'll be assisting you today, a redhead greeted them. Hello, we're the Midoriyas, Izuku greeted back. Please follow me, the man smiled as he led them to a room. You can choose your starter over there, the man pointed to a large machine. Thank you, Izuku said before walking towards the machine. Izuku took his quirk into consideration. He was on his way on becoming a dragon master, might as well get one close to it. None of them would become a dragon type, but some were close. Charizard was already too common, so Izuku chose one he preferred. I choose this one, Izuku showed his choice. Good choice, Gary said as the machine hummed and a Pokeball rolled out. Here, Izuku was handed the Pokeball. Come on out, Izuku threw the Pokeball and in a flash of light, his Pokemon came out. I look forward to our adventures, Trico. Izuku didn't know this, but he was already a lot stronger than most people. But due to lack combat experience, Izuku didn't know his limits in a fight. Still thinking he was weak, Izuku kept training harder and harder. I wish I had a way to train my Pokemon, Izuku mumbled. As if to answer his wish, Izuku fell through a hole in the ground. With a groan, Izuku got up. A sinkhole? Izuku looked around, then another hole opened. Aha! Izuku slid down the hole. Then he popped out of an underground cave. Where am I? Izuku groaned out. Task, survive. Shit. Itsuka flipped another person over her shoulder, sending another one of her sparring partners flying. She spent months training after what happened at the beach. She was forced to run away, when a person stayed behind to fight. She was too weak to help, and that hurted her. Itsune-san, Itsuka turned to see her little sister walking towards her with a water bottle. Thank you, Itsuka took the water bottle from Misty. Itsuka knew her sister wanted to tell her something, and after seeing her train hard every day, she must have holding it back. But she didn't need to tell Itsuka, she'll train hard no matter what. Izuku must have forgotten that the world had it out for him most of the time. The fact that he fell in an unregistered wild zone is proof of that. A frightening amount of ᴘᴏ evolutionary line were also chasing him. Screw it! Izuku called out all his Pokemon, fully intending on fighting. Bring it on! Izuku shouted. A sandstorm followed the horde of Pokemon, and the majority of them charged at them. Riolu used Metal Claw, Trico used Bullet Seed, Axie used Dragon Rage. Izuku gave out orders as he punched a Trapinch back. Izuku's eyes widened when he saw a Vibrava about to use Hyper Beam. Izuku ran towards it, using a Trapinch as a platform to reach it. Izuku grabbed its wings and pointed the Hyper Beam at the horde of wild Pokemon. The attack created an explosion that shook the whole cave. Izuku got down and saw that his Pokemon was doing amazing as well. But Izuku's relief was short-lived, as the sound of a jet was rushing towards him. He barely had time to block as a large body of blue energy crashed into him, sending him crashing to a wall. Gah! Izuku groaned in pain as he tried to get up. Roo! Izuku heard the pained cry of his Riolu. He looked up just in time to see his Riolu crash into him. His other two Pokemon rushed to his side. All four of them getting surrounded by wild Pokemon. He was about to lose hope as the shadow of Trapinch's final evolution hovered over him. A Flygon with a bright blue head and orange tinges on its wings. Izuku didn't know why, but this is the second Pokemon with an unusual appearance he'd seen. Go beyond. Task, overcome this trial. Reward? Izuku saw the panel in front of him. He may not be a fan of All Might, but these words still had a heavy meaning. The image of the Thaya flashed in his head, the first person to believe in him, when even his own mother didn't. He needed a way to get out of here, and just like every protagonist, he had plot armor. Title, motivated by a beauty has activated. Physical abilities have been doubled for 5 minutes. Izuku felt so much power enter his body, red vein marks appeared on his body, as green lightning started to surround his body. Time for round 2, Izuku grinned. Steven groaned as he rode his Skarmory in the sky, heading towards an unregistered wild zone. He was getting too busy this past months, and now, another thing got added to his plate. The moment he arrived at the entrance of a cave near a beach, Steven saw heroes and officers surrounding the entrance. "What's the state?" Steven asked an officer. The cave didn't cause much problems, but its appearance caused a sinkhole to appear on the side of a road, the officer explained. "What happened to it now?" Steven asked as he was led to a tent. The sinkhole covered itself up, leaving only a small crater. The officer showed Steven a picture of a small crater. "Did anybody fall inside?" Steven asked. "We couldn't confirm if the hole was deep enough to begin with," the officer answered. Steven could just hope that Noon fell in. He can only wait for the report from the scout team. ᴚᴚ and his Greninja hid in the shadows as they scouted inside the cave. The entrance was crawling with geodudes and gravelers, with a few golems here and there. That wasn't concerning much, but as he got deeper in, he saw a large nest. Then he saw a couple of trapinches lurking around. He needed to report this immediately. After all, if there is a nest, then there's a queen. Steven received the report from ᴚᴚ, and already assembled a team to determine the difficulty of the new wild zone. If it was above B rank, trainers below the elite ranking would be prohibited from entering. "Why do we need to go in?" a beautiful woman with blue hair asked. "We need to test the difficulty Yamajan," Steven answered. "Why? Scared Karen?" MT Lady asked with a smirk. Utakiama aka MT Lady and Karen Tatsumaki aka Yamajan, two new heroes in the industry, both being advanced rank trainers. "You wanna go, bitch?" Karen growled. "Anytime, tramp," MT Lady yelled back. "Why do I have to deal with this?" Steven grumbled. Azurite, Steven saw ᴚᴚ approaching him. "ᴚᴚ, anything new?" Steven asked. "Only Trapinch and Geodude evolution lines, but the few number of Trapinch was concerning," ᴚᴚ informed. "What do you mean?" Steven narrowed his eyes. "A suspect that they're gathered somewhere in the cave," ᴚᴚ answered. "Then we need to be extra careful," Steven said as everyone got ready to enter. "I can do this all day," Izuku said as he got smacked by a dragon tail. Izuku had only been fighting for 3 minutes, but he and his Pokemon had already taken down at least 20 of them. Now he was dealing with the Flygon. Izuku had to deal with it himself, cause his Pokemon weren't strong enough to deal with it yet. "Bring it on!" Izuku shouted as he punched the Flygon in the gut. The Pokemon countered with a Dragon Claw and sent Izuku flying. Izuku noticed that the Flygon was quite exhausted as well, and grinned. A black Pokeball came out of his inventory. "Go Ultra Ball!" Izuku threw the Ultra Ball at the Flygon, the Pokemon getting sucked inside. Izuku held his breath as the Pokeball shaked. Then it stopped and a ding was heard. Tears threatened to come out of Izuku's eyes as he picked up the Pokeball. "I caught a Flygon!" Izuku cheered. "Gotta catch 'em all!" Task 1, completed. Reward, 1 slot token. Dragon Master. Task 2, completed. Reward, Dragon Pill. "I guess catching a fully evolved dragon type doesn't count as evolving it," Izuku observed when he didn't complete the third task. The other wild Pokemon began leaving. Izuku and his Pokemon will finally be able to rest. He sat on the ground as his Pokemon rested. He took out the Dragon Pill to observe it. It's too bad Izuku didn't have a way to find out how valuable it is. Dragon Pill increases durability and stamina when consumed. Izuku didn't need to be told twice. He tossed the pill into his mouth and instantly regretted it. He felt pain all over his body, as his skin felt like it was burning. Izuku tried to endure the pain as a panel in front of him appeared. Dragon Pill has been consumed. Durability has increased by 30. Stamina has increased by 50. Growth Pen. Izuku couldn't see anymore as his consciousness faded. Steven and his group ventured deeper into the cave after defeating several Pokemon along the way. The defeated Pokemon turned into fragments of light before vanishing and respawning. It was still unsettling to think that everything still acted like in a game. And it's all because of a quirk of someone dead. "We're here," Edshot said, and everyone saw a large nest. A Flygon charged at them with Dragon Rush, but Steven's Metagross was fast to respond. Metagross, protect, a green barrier stopped the Flygon. Greninja used Water Shuriken, Edshot's Greninja shot 7 Water Shurikens at the Flygon. Metagross finished it with Hyper Beam. Metagross gathered energy between its arms and fired the Hyper Beam. An explosion shook the cave, everyone taking cover. When the smoke cleared, everyone saw the Flygon fainted. "So who gets it?" MT Lady asked. "You didn't even help, have some shame," Karen said. "You can have it, Edshot," Steven decided. "Then I'll be much obliged," Edshot spoke before throwing a great ball at the Flygon. "Survey the cave for any hidden areas," Steven ordered. The officers began surveying the area with the other heroes. Steven didn't wait long when an officer called him. Steven and other heroes' eyes widened. The far end of the cave was heavily damaged, almost like a war happened. They looked around and only saw a few Trapinch and Vibravas lurking around. "What the hell happened here?" Steven muttered. Izuku didn't know much about what happened after he fainted, but he managed to ride his Flygon out of the hole he came from, but with a slight detour. They came out of the side of cliff that dropped to the ocean. Finally! Izuku sighed in relief as the familiar sound of his quirk was heard. Challenge completed. Reward, Dragon Yurumi. Izuku raised an eyebrow. "What's that?" Izuku got curious and took out his reward from inventory. A green sword, with a blade that resembled dragon scales, appeared in his hand. Neat. Izuku didn't know what to feel when he finally found out what he missed when he fainted in the cave. His stats increased so much, and both of his Pokemon eggs hatched. Izuku received a Bagon and an EV. Izuku really didn't know what to feel. He already had a team of 6 Pokemon, and 3 of them are dragon types. It felt like he cheated, but it was mostly because of his quirk. The fact that his quirk worked with Pokemon was amazing enough. "Izuku, you'll be late," his mother said from outside his door. "I'll be right there," Izuku replied back. Today was finally the day. He spent the last month training with the Dragon Yurumi. He still couldn't use it well enough, but he could manage without it in the exam. He'll just go plus ultra. And what better way to do that than use his quirk? Slot machine has been activated. Draw 10. Bonus reward, strength has increased by 25. Strength has increased by 5. Speed 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 has increased by 5. Rare Candy 10. Rare Candy 10. Rare Candy 10. Strength has increased 5. Cloak of Flames. Growth Pendant's effect has activated. Strength has increased by 35. Speed has increased by 20. UA was big, just the front entrance was already bigger than most schools. Izuku didn't notice, but his legs were shaking. "Out of my way, Deku," Izuku heard someone, then bumped into a soldier, except Bakugo was the one who fell down. Izuku raised his eyebrow, then walked away. People like Bakugo didn't matter to him anymore. He'll die alone somewhere with that attitude anyway. Deku. Bakugo ran at him. Izuku got out of the way, then Bakugo tripped on an uneven brick, making him fall face first on the ground. Izuku continued on with his day. He ignored any interaction with the blonde. Izuku easily finished the written portion of the exam. Now, they all gathered for the orientation for the practical portion of the exam. Izuku's eyes shined as President Mike gave the orientation. He adored the hero so much. Not only was he a teacher at UA, he also had a radio show, alongside being a hero. He was among the only heroes Izuku actually liked. "Excuse me, it says here that there are 4 types of robot. Such a mistake is unbecoming of UA," a blue-haired guy with glasses interrupted. "And you with the green hair, your muttering has been distracting." If you're not taking this seriously, then you do not belong here. Izuku got pissed. Excuse me, you hypocrite, Izuku started, and the blue-haired man looked offended. You have no right to judge on who belongs here, and you distracted everyone by interrupting present mix explanation, so shut up, hypocrite, Izuku ranted before sitting down again. Alright, calm down, listeners, the fourth robot is just a distraction and worth 0 points, present Mike interjected. No, go out there and break a leg, everyone, present Mike finished. Izuku just had the bad luck of being in the same testing site as the blue-haired hypocrite. Izuku pointedly ignored him. They were supposed to use their starter, in order to be fair. Izuku had to sigh at the sheer number of Charmanders on the field. There were also quite a lot of mudkips. He did see a brown-haired girl with a ⴄ at least someone was different. Demolition. Task: destroy the robots. Reward? Suddenly the gate opened, and Izuku immediately rushed inside. Trico. Izuku called out his Pokemon, his Trico jumped into his hand. Izuku spun and threw his Trico towards a 3-pointer robot. Use pound. Trico destroyed one robot just as Izuku's shoulder bashed through a group of 2-pointers. He grabbed the 2-pointer robot's tail, then used it as a bludgeon to destroy another group of robots. He stopped to loll at his surroundings, then he heard Present Mix's voice. What are you all doing? There isn't a countdown in real life. He already has 20 points. Go! Go! Izuku watched the other applicants rush in. Izuku continued to work with his Trico to destroy robots around the center of the testing site. This robot aren't really durable, Izuku muttered. Unknown to him that he was just too strong for the robots. It was the last 2 minutes when Izuku felt the ground rumble. What's going on? Izuku said in panic. He saw the other applicants running away from a giant robot. Izuku was about to run away when he heard it. Ow! Izuku turned around to see the brown-haired girl stuck under some rubble. His body moved and he ran towards the giant 0-pointer robot. Title: Motivated by a Beauty has activated. Physical abilities will be doubled for 5 minutes. Green lightning crackled from Izuku's body. Izuku jumped, cracking the pavement in the process. He soared towards the giant robot's head. Smash! Izuku wasn't really a fan of the hero, but no other word fitted better. Izuku's fist crashed into the 0-pointer's head, pushing it back as it exploded. Izuku began to descend, and he braced for impact. Before he hit the ground, he felt something hit him in the stomach. He stopped mid-air, and just hovered there. Release. Izuku saw the brown-haired girl on top of a robot. Izuku promptly face-planted on the ground. Aizawa felt like this year would be a massive headache. What's his quirk? Aizawa asked. It says gacha? Midnight answered. How does strength like that relate to gacha? Vlad King asked. Maybe he pulled it in the gacha? Midnight shrugged. Interesting, Nizu spoke. The teacher shivered at the glint in his eyes. Izuku wondered how the rare candy worked. Levels didn't actually exist here after all. Something that made people wonder, since that was the main point in the games back then. But Pokemon levels didn't carry here. Izuku called out his Riolu. His Riolu just stared at curiously. He handed one rare candy to his Riolu. It only tilted its head in confusion before shrugging and eating the candy. Izuku waited a few seconds but nothing happened. Screw it. Izuku called out the rest. Riolu, Axu, Trico, Flygon, Bagon, and Eevee all received 5 rare candy. Though Flygon refused the rare candy, so the others received another 1 each. Is that it? Izuku said in disappointment. Izuku hesitated to use it before the entrance exam because he was afraid of side effects, but this was just disappointing. Do you guys feel stronger? Izuku asked his Pokemon. They just shook their heads. Maybe I should have eaten them? Izuku wondered. Well, it doesn't matter, Izuku spoke. We can all get stronger together. Izuku held up a fist. All his Pokemon agreed and returned the fist bump, then Ryalu and Axa started glowing. Lucario howled. Frax. Fracture joined in. Well, would look at you too, being dramatic, Izuku spoke. Young Midoriya, welcome to your Hero Academia. The hologram disappeared, ending the message. Izuku didn't feel happy. For some odd reason he wasn't satisfied at all. The number one hero congratulated him, but he felt nothing. Izuku left his room and went for a walk. Izuku subconsciously went to the place where he met ᴘᴜ. He didn't know why, he just did. He sat on a bench, staring at the sky. Why the long face? ᴘᴜ's face blocked the sky as she looked down from behind him. ᴘᴜ-san. Izuku jumped off the bed. Last week was the entrance exam, right? ᴘᴜ asked as she sat down. Why yes, Izuku sat down again. How did it go? ᴘᴜ asked. I passed, Izuku answered. Wow, congratulations. Thank you, Izuku blushed. Tell me about it, ᴘᴜ said. Izuku began telling her all about the exam and how it went. This time he felt satisfied. Izuku was very excited for his first day. The day before with ᴘᴜ really made his day. He just wished his new classmates weren't like the ones from Eldora High School. Wow, Izuku said in wonder as he walked through halls of UA. He walked around until he saw a door with a large red ⴜ written on it. The moment Izuku entered, he was bombarded by loud yelling. Take your foot off the desk, you are disrespecting the equipment that our senpais once used, the blue-haired guy ranted at Bakugo. Izuku chose to ignore them. Nothing good ever happens when he hangs out with those kind of people. Hey! You're the guy from the test. Izuku turned around to see the brown-haired girl from the exam. Hello, Izuku greeted. I'm Ochako Uraraka. Izuku Midoriya. Nice to meet. Uraraka was cut off by a yellow caterpillar crawling inside the classroom. If you're planning on just making friends, then you're in the wrong place. A man came out of the yellow caterpillar. I will be your homeroom teacher, I'm Shota Aizawa. Now put these on and head to the field. Aizawa held up a PE uniform. Izuku hid at the far corner of the changing room, avoiding Bakugo as much as possible. Once he was done changing, Izuku immediately left the changing room. He was the first one to arrive at the field, and saw Aizawa standing near the wall. Once Izuku got closer to the field, he heard the familiar sound of his quirk in his head. Demolition. Task completed. Reward, TM, random. Prove yourself. Task, pass the test. Reward, TM, random. Izuku got curious, and pulled out the TM from his inventory. TM has been activated. Dragon Master Quest has been detected. TM Dragon Claw has been acquired. Izuku stared at the panel. Apparently quests had an effect to HJS rewards. Izuku remembered about the rare candies, so he wanted to test something. He tried to use the TM on himself. TM Dragon Claw has been used. You have learned Dragon Claw. No fucking way, Izuku thought in his head. Izuku looked at his hand, trying to use it. A few minutes of trying, nothing happened. Did I just waste it? Izuku wondered. He heard people approaching and saw his classmates walking towards the field. Since everyone is here, I'll be explaining what we're going to do, Aizawa started. Izuku's thoughts began to wander as Aizawa was explaining. He began thinking of ways to activate Dragon Claw, even thought of asking his own Pokemon. Flygon can use Dragon Claw, so Izuku would ask Flygon first. Midoriya, Izuku snapped out of his thoughts when he heard Aizawa. Go to the circle, and throw this. Aizawa tossed him a soft ball. You can use your quirk to do as you like. As if that quirkless Deku could do that, Bakugo grumbled. Izuku ignored Bakugo as he walked to the circle. He needed to get a good score, but he could only rely on his strength here. Izuku simply threw the ball with all his strength, creating a small blast of wind in the process. Aizawa's phone dinged. He showed the class. The screen showed 12:43 m. 1 kilometer. A guy with blonde hair with a black lightning bolt on it exclaimed. We will be testing your limits, so don't hold back, Izuku spoke. Izuku stared at his hands, surprised by his strength. He glanced at his classmates and instantly regretted it. He saw that Bakugo was visibly shaking with rage, that the red-haired woman beside her even stepped away. Izuku was busy having a mental breakdown that he didn't notice that Izuku was already threatening them with expulsion, because a pink-skinned classmate couldn't keep her mouth shut. Izuku just noticed that everyone looked on edge. The first test was a 50-meter dash. The glasses guy did well with 3 seconds. Second was Bakugo with 4 seconds. A weird blonde French guy got 5 seconds by blasting himself backwards. Izuku was surprised by his sled and got 2.5 seconds, placing him at first. The other tests were also pretty normal. Izuku also got first in the grip test, while a guy with multiple arms got second. Izuku practically locked himself in the vertical jump, then became a blur in the sidesteps. Izuku really did well, placing first in almost all of the tests. Bakugo, Izuku-sensei called Bakugo for the softball. Izuku noticed the multi-armed guy and a girl with earphone jacks. He walked towards the multi-armed guy. "You might want to cover your ears," Izuku said. "Thank you," the multi-armed guy nodded. Izuku then walked towards the earphone jack girl. "You might want to cover your ears." "Huh?" The girl towards him in confusion. "Die." Izuku heard Bakugo shout, and immediately covered the girl's ears. A loud explosion was created, sending the ball flying. Izuku let go of the girl's ear, and walked away. He hoped he wouldn't be mad for suddenly touching her. Girls from his old school would get mad for far less. The last set of the tests was an endurance run. Izuku had a very high stamina, which he got from the dragon pill. He was able to last longer than the glasses guy, and even tied with the beautiful black-haired girl who made a bike. It was safe to say that Izuku did well. Here are the results. Izuku-sensei showed the results. Izuku saw that he was first, and mentally celebrated. The short guy with purple balls on his head began crying. "Noon is going to get expelled. That was just a logical ruse to get you to do your best." "Expelled?" Izuku tilted his head in confusion. "That was clearly a lie. I had thought that everyone noticed," the black-haired girl spoke. "Today is Friday, all of you have the weekend to move into the dorms," Izuku informed. "Yes, sensei," the class chorused. "Prove yourself." Task completed. Reward, TM, random. Izuku decided to save it this time. After getting their stuff from the classroom, everyone began to go home. Izuku did his best to avoid Bakugo. Once Izuku got home, he immediately went to bed. "How was class's show?" Hisashi asked. "Tiring," Izuku grumbled. "Grumpy as usual, huh?" Nemuri joined in. "Did anyone got expelled this time?" Hisashi asked. "None, yet," Izuku answered as he finished his paperwork. "That's a surprise," Hisashi said in wonder. "They have a small amount of potential," Izuku explained. Izuku woke up in the middle of the night. He felt uncomfortable going to sleep again. He grabbed a hoodie, and went for a walk. Izuku walked silently in the middle of the night. He saw someone that was looking around and trying to hide themselves in their hoodie. Izuku got suspicious and decided to follow him, putting on a Pikachu mask to hide his face as well. The person entered a weird-looking door. Izuku waited a minute before carefully entering the door himself. It was a door to a tunnel, and Izuku felt he should head back. "Who are you?" Izuku jumped at the sudden voice. Izuku turned to see a woman with pink wavy hair. She was wearing a crop top and pants that had diamond-shaped holes. Izuku didn't know what to say. "If you're planning on fighting, you need to register first," the woman spoke. "Oh, right, that." Izuku answered. The woman raised an eyebrow but left Izuku behind. Izuku walked throughout the tunnel, until he arrived at a huge opening that had an arena at the middle. "Mulva, who's that?" A man with blonde hair and fancy clothes spoke. "He's a fighter, Sebold," the woman answered. "For whom?" Sebold asked with a raised eyebrow. He seems young. He's mine, a woman with dark hair tied in a spiky bun spoke up. Really, Diantha? A kid? Siebold asked in disbelief. Let her be, Malva spoke up. Izuku followed the dark-haired woman. Izuku didn't exactly know what to do. They arrived inside a waiting room. Izuku just sat quietly on a chair as the woman was doing something on her phone. A light bulb lit up above the other of the room. Get in, the woman spoke. Eh? Izuku looked confused. You came here to fight, didn't you? Get in, the woman spoke. Izuku just went with it and entered through the door. Some guys in black suits led Izuku to an arena. Are you ready for the next match, folks? A man spoke through a microphone. Get ready to cast your bets. The guy spoke. Izuku saw a large screen above them with his face and another person. Izuku saw number under their names, and the number under the other person was larger. For some reason he felt offended. I'm going to squash you like a bug, a large man with blue skin said as he cracked his knuckles. Izuku gets it now. He's in an illegal fight club. Good thing he was wearing a mask. Any second now. Fist fight. Task, win. Reward, 2 slot tokens. Izuku grinned. The blue man called out in ᴅᴘ. Izuku responded by calling out his ⴡᴇ. The man's eyes widened, and some people from the audience gasped. Clearly his ⴡᴇ was something unusual to see. Begin. The commentator announced. Dragon Claw. Izuku's ⴡᴇ rushed forward. The ᴅᴘ failed to dodge and received a dragon claw to the face. Izuku observed how ⴡᴇ used dragon claw, how the energy gathered in its hands. Shit. ᴅᴘ, get up, the blue man shouted. Dragon Claw. Izuku shouted again. ᴅᴘ, use payback, the blue man ordered, but ᴅᴘ wasn't the one that got attacked. Izuku's hand glowed blue as his attack landed on the blue man's stomach. The man was sent flying out of the arena. Dragon Rush. ⴡᴇ surged forward, ᴅᴘ tried to block, but the attack was too powerful. Knockout. The MC announced. Izuku grinned. The winner is Pikachu Man. Izuku's grin disappeared. Izuku never thought he would do something stupid. He wanted to try and escape, but the woman from earlier stood between him and the door. Leaving so soon, Pikachu Man? The woman spoke as she walked closer. Aye, Izuku stammered as the woman got closer. You don't know where you are, don't you? The woman's eyes narrowed. Oh, of course I do, Izuku began sweating. No you don't, the woman said flatly. I do, Izuku got cornered. You're a bad liar, the woman spoke. You're in the royal arena, the woman informed. This is where most wealthy people come to entertain themselves or look for a mercenary. Mercenary? Izuku tilted his head in confusion. They hire people to help catch strong Pokemon, the woman explained. That makes sense, Izuku muttered. That explains how Endeavor had a Charizard and a Magmortar in his first year of UA. Correct, the woman said. So, who are you really? The woman's eyes narrowed at Izuku. Izuku gulped, then took off his mask. He had a feeling he couldn't get out of this one. My name is Diantha, if you plan on continuing here, change the name, Diantha giggled. Izuku blushed but nodded. Izuku, he weakly spoke. Alright Izuku, we don't exactly have an age limitation here, but we do require a certain skill level, Diantha informed. From what I've seen personally, you lack experience, but you have a powerful Pokemon. Thanks? Izuku asked unsure. Here, Diantha handed him a card before leaving. Izuku saw that it was an ID card, but the name was Pikachu-man. He really needed to get this fixed. All Might never more concerned and relieved when he found out the true nature of One for All from young Mario. When Mario received the quirk 10 months ago, he was able to use 25% safely. That's when the dreams kicked in. Sir ᴘᴟ had been shocked to find out that one for all shortened the lifespan of every quirked user. But the vestiges managed to find a way. By splitting one for all, they would be able to avoid the life-threatening drawback. But who will receive the other 5 fragments of one for all? ᴘᴟ asked. One for all had been shattered into 6 equal fragments power, each holding a quirk of a past user, except for the first user. Based on the information I gathered, ᴘᴟ began. Float, smokescreen, black whip, danger sense, and 2 unknown quirks is what we have, ᴘᴟ explained. And I had danger sense, Mirio added. That leaves the rest still with me, All Might spoke. As the only quirkless wielder, he was tasked to hold the 5 remaining fragments of power. The obvious choice would be the rest of the UA Big 3, then other students from UA, ᴘᴟ suggested. But it would take time to find people worthy, All Might sounded distressed. We will work through this, ᴘᴟ spoke. Moving to the dorms was proving to be a hassle. Izuku was given the last room at the very top floor, wonderful. If Izuku didn't have an inventory, he probably would have just left his stuff at the lobby. Izuku didn't bring a lot of stuff though. He held himself back from bringing any Pokemon merchandise, he would only be here for 4 years after all. He arranged his clothes in the cabinet and the other stuff were left for later. The ringing of his phone caught his attention. Hello? Izuku saw that it was an unknown number, and hesitated to say his name. Hello, is this ᴅᴇᴜᴛ? A voice of a woman spoke through the call. Izuku blushed in embarrassment. Yes it is, Izuku answered. Oh, I was hoping to hire you assistance in catching a certain Pokemon, the woman informed. Diantha told him about this, but Izuku wasn't exactly expecting to be hired. I don't have any experience though, Izuku said honestly. That would be fine, the Pokemon I wish to obtain is only a Growlithe, the woman explained. Oh okay then, Izuku agreed. Wonderful, please meet me later this afternoon at this location, the woman sent him the place to meet. Okay, I'll see you then, Izuku spoke before the woman ended the call. Assistance. Task, help capture a Pokemon. Reward? Bonus, assisted capture will count as a captured Pokemon. Neat. What are we doing here? Who's that? Why does he look like a skeleton? Is he okay? Why is Sir ᴘᴟ here? The heroes watched in exasperation as ᴘᴟ bombarded them with questions. You get used to it, Ryukyu spoke. First of all I need to show you this, Small Might got everyone's attention. He buffed up, shocking everyone who didn't know. He then began to tell the story about his quirk and why he asked them to gather. ᴘᴟ and Amajiki Tamaki along with their respective mentors, Ryukyu and Fat Gum listened to All Might as he explained everything. So you want my intern to inherit a fragment of power? Ryukyu asked. Yes, Small Might answered. Neat, Fat Gum spoke. Do we get new powers? How strong is it? ᴘᴟ began asking them questions again. Tamaki could only sulk in the corner. Izuku got down to the lobby and found a group of 5 girls. Momo Yayorozu, Shoko Todoroki, Kyoka Jiro, Ochako Uraraka, and Eiko Kirishima. Oh, it would seem, someone already arrived first, Yayorozu spoke after seeing Izuku come out the elevator. Yes? Izuku asked, was he supposed to come later? How did you get your stuff Hara and to your room? The movers from UA haven't even arrived yet, Uraraka asked. I brought it myself? Izuku got even more confused. Manly! Kirishima exclaimed. Okay? Izuku began to get concerned. Izuku decided that social interaction wasn't really his thing and walked towards the door. The girls seemed to ignore his existence after answering their questions, so Izuku just left. The meeting place was a tea shop. Izuku hesitantly put on his Pikachu mask. A woman with lavender-colored hair waved at him. My name is Psycho Intelli, I'll be in your care, the woman introduced herself. Likewise, Izuku replied. Shall we? Intelli gestured to a limousine. Right, rich people. Izuku nodded and got in the fancy vehicle. The drive was short and quiet. They arrived at a wild zone called Scorched Field. ᴘᴇ walked towards the guards and showed a piece of paper. They were shortly let in after. "Let us begin," ᴘᴇ spoke. Izuku called out his flygon. Both of them got on its back and began their search. Growlies weren't hard to find, they were just hard to catch. There! Izuku pointed at a growlithe accompanied by an Arcanine. "Quirks!" ᴘᴇ called out her Pokemon. "Use confusion." Quirks let out a mental blast towards the two fire types. The Arcanine acted fast. Using extreme speed, it easily avoided confusion, while carrying the growlithe on its mouth. Flygon used Dragon Rush. Izuku's Flygon got enveloped in blue energy as an image of a large dragon head surged towards the Arcanine. Izuku noticed the Pokemon about to move and grinned. His eyes glowed blue, and the Arcanine was shocked by its own move failing. Izuku had used the TM Disable on himself, and now had his own version of Eraserhead's quirk. "Marvelous," ᴘᴇ commented. Quirks used confusion once more. Quirks used its move again, this time it hit the same time Dragon Rush landed. The growlithe already fainted, but the Arcanine proved to be a lot more tenacious. ᴘᴇ didn't waste the moment though and threw a Pokeball at the growlithe. The Arcanine was about to intercept, but Izuku's Flygon had fired a Hyper Beam to block its path. Dragon Claw. ᴘᴇ looked confused. Flygon had just used Hyper Beam, which should render it immobile for a while, but he wanted to use a move already? But to ᴘᴇ's surprise, Flygon wasn't the one to attack. Izuku landed a solid attack to the Pokemon. Arcanine opened its jaw to fire an attack, but Izuku used Disable to cancel it. Double Dragon Claw. Izuku charged with his Flygon, both their claws/hands glowing with power. The Arcanine failed to dodge, finally rendering it unconscious. Izuku threw a Pokeball. 5 Pokeballs to be exact. How can a Pokemon that fainted struggle so much? It was just absurd. Assistance. Task completed. Reward? Gotta catch 'em all. Task 2 completed. Reward, 1 slot token. That was eventful, Izuku muttered. ᴘᴇ had thanked him and paid him 100,000 yen. Izuku was surprised since all he did was help capture a growlithe. She seemed a little too clingy on the journey back. Izuku felt really weird after that. Izuku decided to forget about it for now and check the unknown reward. Chat system obtained. Izuku raised an eyebrow. Available contacts. Cynthia Prize. Itsuka Kendo. Diantha Maddle. Psycho ᴘᴇ. Izuku took a while to recognize the first name. So that's Thia's full name, Izuku said in awe. She has a beautiful name, Izuku said as he contemplated on calling her with his new ability. He did not get a decision. Contacting Cynthia Prize? Izuku panicked, then a panel appeared in front of him. Cynthia, hello? Izuku saw the panel. He saw a picture of video camera at the bottom, and pressed it thinking it was the way to reply. The panel changed to reveal Cynthia. Izuku blushed. His nose began to bleed. Era, what a naughty boy, Cynthia spoke. Izuku fainted as the image of Cynthia submerged in a bathtub was forever stored in his brain. Izuku woke up then blushed at the memory of Thia in the bath. As Izuku was having a mental crisis, he heard a knock on his door. That managed to partially get him back to his sense and opened the door. Good morning, we wish to inform you that we're going to have a meeting at the common room in ⴅ The beautiful black-haired girl quickly won away. Izuku raised an eyebrow. If he remembered correctly, that was Momo Yayorozu. She most likely has a Ralts or Quirks by now. Though Izuku wondered why she ran away. He needed to get ready first. When Izuku entered the bathroom, he found the answer to his question. He was shirtless. Wow, when did I get like this? Izuku said in amazement. His reflection showed his toned body. He had a lean body that was reminiscent of an Olympic swimmer. He also noticed that he was slightly taller. Finally! Izuku exclaimed. He got dressed. He wore a shirt that said pants and simple basketball shorts. When he got down, he saw all his classmates already there. He noticed that Yaoyorozu blushed when she saw him. He needed to apologize for that. Why don't we introduce ourselves? A girl with pink skin suggested. My name is Mina Ashido, my quirk is acid. My starter is a mud kip. The red-haired woman next to her stood up. I'm Eiko Kirishima. My quirk is called hardening. Eiko hardened her arm as demonstration. My starter is a Squirtle, Kirishima finished. Izuku watched as the rest of them introduced themselves one by one. Shiro had a Bulbasaur. Kaminari had a Charmander. Izuku expected him to have an electric starter for some reason. Jiro and Kota both had a Scorbunny. Ida and Azui both chose a Froakie. Izuku could see why Azui chose it, but not Ida. Todoroki picked a Piplup. Uraraka and Yaoyorozu both showed off their Fennekin. Both Ojiro and Shoji had a Chimchar, while Sato had a Chasepin. Oddly enough, for people had a Rowlet, Mineta, Hagakure, Tokoyami, and Aoyama. Izuku then noticed everyone was staring at him. My name is Izuku Midoriya, my quirk is called Gotcha. Some of them looked confused. And my starter is a Trico. You look familiar, Todoroki spoke up. Izuku remembered that she was the daughter of Endeavor, could have been watching his fight in the arena. I do? Izuku began sweating. We just saw him yesterday, Uraraka interjected. Todoroki hummed. Izuku sighed in relief. For some reason Bakugo was very quiet. Izuku decided that he would not question a miracle from the heavens. After that, everyone began doing their own thing. Some played video games, some began studying, and some just did weird stuff. Izuku decided to mind his own business in his room. Once in his room, Izuku began recording what he learned about his classmates in his notebooks. Their quirks, Pokémons, and potential combinations with their Pokémon. He also noted that Yaoyorozu, Todoroki, and Ida would most likely have a legacy Pokémon. He couldn't wait to learn more. Cynthia browsed through a Pokémon magazine. Being a 23-year-old woman with not much friends made life a little boring. And her actual friends were really busy. She was also really busy. She was the current number 10 hero Titania after all. Although nobody knew her real name and the fact that she always wore a mask. She was really popular. Now most of her free time is spent resting and mostly alone. But when her eyes landed on something interesting, she couldn't help but laugh. Hee hee, Cynthia tried to contain her laugh at the goofy mask. Ha ha ha. But she began cackling when she saw his name. Ha 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 pi ha ha ka ha 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 Chuman, Cynthia had to wipe a tear from her eye. Oh Izuku, you're quite the lively one, aren't you? Cynthia said with amusement. Then she remembered what happened yesterday. Quite the peculiar quirk as well, Cynthia muttered. I hope to see more of you, she said with a warm smile. Classes were boring. Despite having pro heroes as teachers, everything was the same as a normal class. The subjects he chose for his minors were pretty simple though. Pokémon research as well as some minor medical fields. He also took some physical education classes. Yaoyorozu and Ida were also in his Pokémon research class, while Uraraka joined him and Yaoyorozu in first aid. He still had to go to the mandatory classes like English and history, but Izuku was smart enough. The others, not so much. May I sit here? Izuku turned to see a familiar face. Sure, Izuku replied. My name is Itsuka Kendo, thank you for saving my little sister, Kendo introduced herself as she put down her tray of food. Izuku Midoriya, and it's no big deal. It's what heroes do after all, Izuku said with a wide smile. Kendo looked thoughtful for a moment before nodding. They began eating, occasionally having small talk. I remember you having a Hariyama, Izuku spoke. Oh, that was my first ever Pokémon, but my starter is a Torchic, Kendo informed. Izuku imagined what the Torchic looked like, then stared at Kendo, specifically her hair. Why are you looking at my hair? Kendo narrowed her eyes at him. And nothing. Izuku frantically tried to change the topic. Do you have other Pokemon? Izuku asked.
No, just two, Kendo replied but still narrowed her eyes at him.
Well, see you later then, Midoriya. Kendo waved goodbye. Bye, Izuku waved back before heading to his next class. Math.
Welcome to your first hero class, Aizawa-sensei showed them a card that said catch. All of you will be given a chance to catch one Pokemon in the UA forest, Aizawa-sensei explained. There's at least 200 different species inside, so you won't be disappointed, Aizawa informed.
Izuku could see most of his classmates vibrate with excitement. He wondered how they would react if they found out he had 7 already. He had no idea, but Bakugo would probably be mad. You may enter, Aizawa-sensei opened the gate. Get back here within 2 hours, Aizawa said before letting them in. Izuku was probably the only one who didn't run inside. He began walking along the lake. Izuku wanted to catch a water type this time. He already had 3 dragon types, but didn't have one of the most basic types. Gotcha, Karo, Izuku saw Azui fish out a Palpitoad. As their fight began, Izuku decided to focus on catching his own Pokemon first. A few minutes later, he could see Kaminari in the distance being chased by a flock of Pidgeys. Next he found Yaoyorozu in a fight with a Dratini. Izuku expected to see another classmate in a few minutes, but the sound of explosions already told him where Bakugo is. Izuku chose to walk in the opposite direction. As he walked, Izuku noticed a small Pokemon that resembled a shark. Go Flygon, use Dragon Rush, probably a little overkill. The moment the attack hit, Izuku threw the Pokeball. It only took one Pokeball, and Izuku sighed in relief. He began to walk back to the entrance of the forest. When he arrived, he found at least half of the class was already there. Midoriya, what did you catch? Uraraka asked with excitement.
Oh, I didn't exactly get a good look, Izuku scratched the back of his head as he blushed. You can heal your Pokemon over there, Uraraka pointed to a woman with pink hair.
Nurse Joy? Izuku asked. Oh, no, my name is Naomi Ayashi.
I'm Recovery Girl's assistant here at UA, the woman replied.
Naomi took the Pokeball from Izuku and placed it on top of a machine that began glowing light green. The machine dinged and Nurse Naomi gave Izuku the Pokeball back. Come on out, little guy, Izuku called out his new Pokemon, expecting it to be a water type. Gible. The Pokemon revealed itself to be a Gible. Izuku thought it would be a water type, since it resembled a shark. I should have checked it more thoroughly, Izuku muttered. Welcome to the Team Gible. Izuku exclaimed. Wow, a dragon type as well, Yaoyorozu commented. Mohahaha, the loud obnoxious voice of Bakugo was heard as he came back from the forest. You extras don't stand a chance at the Pokemon I caught. Bakugo caught a Growlithe. Did he fight it himself? Izuku wondered. Way the go Bakubro! Kirishima exclaimed as she ran towards them. Wow, a Gible, very manly Madobro, Kirishima added. What did you catch, Kirishima-san? Uraraka asked. Everyone's eyes widened. Kirishima caught a Rhydon. She doesn't mess around, huh? Kaminari spoke as a Pikachu sat on his head. Everyone turned to the source of the scream and found Mineta being chased by a hive of Beedrills. Absol used flamethrower, Aizawa-sensei called out an Absol, then unleashed a torrent of flames from its mouth. An Absol with flamethrower, Izuku muttered. Izuku couldn't help but admire it, such a thing was rare after all. Class dismissed, see you all tomorrow, Aizawa-sensei said as he carried Mineta to Recovery Girl. The class was amazed, but began to leave all the same. Tomorrow would be quite the eventful day. Hear me out, Mina said as if she just discovered the world's most important secret. Midori's quirk is called Gotcha, right? All the girls nodded. What if he could pull anything from it, Mina stated sagely. Like what? Uraraka tilted her head in confusion. I don't know, maybe a car? Mina suggested. That seems a little far-fetched, Momo spoke up. Was that a Pokemon pun? Jiro asked. Not intentionally, Momo replied to Jiro. Maybe he could get Pokemon? Toru wondered. Or food. Tsuyu added. That possibilities are endless. Mina exclaimed. He might have gotten a quirk as well, Momo speculated. Why do you say that, Yamamo? Mina and Toru looked confused. His super strength had to come from somewhere, Momo explained. He could get quirks too. Uraraka gasped. Maybe not exactly quirks, Momo wondered. Maybe stats? Like a game? Momo suggested. I'm right here, you know. Izuku literally sat beside the table the girls gathered on. Shumidori. We're trying to figure out your quirk. Mina went back to talking with the girls. Izuku decided that this was not worth his time. Normally Izuku would go training, but he already figured out that training did not increase his stats. Quite the downside, but it didn't decrease either, which was the good part. Training with his sword proved to be worthless as well, he just wasn't good enough to use the whip part of it. Wanna go training, Midobro? Kirishima walked out wearing workout clothes. No thank you, Kirishima-san, Izuku bowed as he refused her offer. Don't sweat it, Midobro, Kirishima jogged off. Izuku watched her drag Bakugo with her. Who knew someone would be able to tame Bakugo? He could hear him scowling, but didn't struggle. Might as well get ready for class, Izuku muttered. His first class was in 2 hours, but school was just a 15-minute walk anyways. At this point he wanted some missions. The only mission he had left was the Dragon Master quest line. Give me some quest. Izuku shouted at nothing. So his quirk gives him quests, Mina whispered. I wonder what kind. Uraraka whispers from beside Mina. It might depend on what he needs, Momo adds. Or just random, Jiro adds as well. Interesting, Karo, Tsuyu rubs her chin in thought. I can hear you, Izuku calls to the girls. Shush you, Toru quiets him down. How do I turn this off? Tamaki says as he kept smoking. Maybe there's an off switch, Fatgum says as he looks around Tamaki. Where is it even coming from? Tamaki groans. Yahoo! Nagire swung in the air as yellow whips came out of her hands and grabbed on the railings. Tamaki was given Smokescreen's fragment, while young Nagire was given Black Whip's fragment, Small Might observed. You say that like OT wasn't planned, Ryukyu narrowed her eyes at the number 1 hero. Of course it was planned, haha, All Might frantically answered. The big three seemed excited for each other, well as much excited Tamaki could be. But they still needed to find 3 more successors. It would be best to choose from the first years, Night Eye suggested. Why do you say that? Small Might asked. The big three were a good choice based on their standing alone, but outside of them, we need to find people that we could still mold, Night Eye explained. Small Might raised an eyebrow. He means a first year gives us the time to mentor them as a student, instead of immediately sending them out on the field, Ryukyu explained. Ah, I see, Small Might spoke. Everyone was beginning to question the intelligence of the number 1 hero. Who we choose though, Small Might asked. We have 4 candidates, Night Eye answered. Momo Yaoyorozu, Itsuka Kendo, Eiko Kirishima, and Izuku Midoriya, Night Eye listed. Why them? Fatgum asked as he left Tamaki sulking in the corner. Miss Yaoyorozu has a great mind proven by her amazing results, along with a good judgment based on what I saw in the recommendation exam, Night Eye explained. The others? Ryukyu asked as she caught Nagire mid-swing. Miss Kirishima and Miss Kendo both have shown good performances during the practical exam, and seem to have physical training, Night Eye answered. What about the Midoriya kid? Ryukyu asked as she prevented Nagire from swinging again. In all honesty, I didn't anything noteworthy in his performance during the practical, Night Eye confessed. Then why mention young Midoriya, All Might asked. I saw him in Mirio's future. He was standing over a powerful villain, green lightning coming out of his body, Night Eye informed. The heroes glanced at Mirio, who had yellow lightning shrouding his body. Nagire and Tamaki also had lightning effects when they tried One for All. So he gets a fragment in the future, so you want to give him now, Ryukyu summarizes. Yes, Night Eye confirmed. Izuku stared at his hero costume. He gave them the jumpsuit his mother made him, but what he saw was completely different. It looked sturdier and more combat-ready in appearance. The knee pads have been extended to his legs and reach up to his thighs, and his new gloves are tinted beige and are decorated with blue stripes. His respirator is now metal, diamond-shaped, and has 8 holes. Combat. Task: kick Bakugo's ass. Reward: TM, choose. Bonus task: kick Todoroki's ass. Reward: TM, choose. Izuku froze as his quirk showed him the panel. Did he read that right? He needed to fight Bakugo and Todoroki? Was his quirk crazy? I can't beat them. Show no mercy. Task: destroy Bakugo and Todoroki. Reward: 10 slot tokens. Bring it the fuck on. Izuku's eyes burned with righteous fury. Izuku arrived at the testing area and All Might greeted his class. Izuku didn't quite catch All Might's explanation, but he felt like something was off. Secret quest completed. One for all. Reward: one for all, float. Izuku was surprised and confused. He also noticed that All Might basically froze, then stared at him. All Might then returned to explaining the exercise, but occasionally glancing at him. Time to draw lots. All Might announced as he held up a box. Izuku was paired with Noon. Heroes always have to deal with being outnumbered almost all the time, All Might spoke up. Izuku had to go against Bakugo, Todoroki, and Yaoyorozu. Izuku did not like those odds. Uraraka gave him a look of sympathy as they headed to the building for their battle trial. Izuku was the hero, while the other 3 played as the villains. Izuku could hear Bakugo yelling some colorful words from inside the building. At least he knew which side the bomb was now. He wondered if he could actually win. Go beyond, again. Task: win. Reward? Bonus: a girlfriend? His quirk seemed more fired up than him today. Was it because of this morning? And did that say a girlfriend? How the hell did that work? Begin. All Might announced. Izuku just raised an eyebrow. Izuku casually walked inside the building. Then an explosion engulfed him. Take that shitty Deku. Bakugo roared as he fired another explosion. Izuku simply walked out the smoke unharmed. He gave himself a once-over. He grinned. Neat. Did he just shrug off an explosion? Kaminari asked in disbelief. Manly. Kirishima exclaimed. Bakugo charged forward, aiming a right hook to Izuku's side. Izuku simply caught his hand before flipping Bakugo over his shoulder. To his surprise, Bakugo hit the ground hard. Izuku followed with a quick punch to the face. Bakugo used an explosion to get some distance. It hasn't charged much, but it will have to do, Bakugo grinned as he pointed his gauntlet at Izuku. Bakugo, do not fire that attack, you could kill him. All Might said through their earpiece. He'll live if he dodges. Bakugo shouted before firing the explosion. Izuku did not dodge. He's gonna die. Mina yelled in horror. Everyone else looked in shock and fear as Izuku got consumed by the flames. Bakugo cackled as his attack finished. How does it feel, Deku? Bakugo boasted. Toasty, Izuku's voice came from the smoke. What? Bakugo said in shock as Izuku shot out of the smoke. Dragon Claw. Izuku's attack sent Bakugo flying through a wall, knocking him out. Young Bakugo has been captured. Combat. Task completed. Reward: TM. Izuku chose a TM. TM activated. Dragon Rush has been learned. Izuku continued on his mission and climbed up the building. Suddenly the ground turned to ice. Izuku saw Todoroki and raised an eyebrow at her. Todoroki stood at the middle of the hallway. Izuku stomped on the ground hard, cracking the floor. Todoroki's ice shattered, then Izuku shot forward. Todoroki already looked bad as she shivered, now she just looked worse. Izuku was slightly confused. Why did she look injured before the match even began? Young Todoroki has been captured. Combat. Bonus task completed. Reward, TM. I need to hurry, Izuku heard someone muttering from inside the room behind Todoroki. Izuku couldn't open the door. Even using force didn't help much. She must have barricaded it. Izuku entered the room next door. Knock knock, Izuku said before he punched a hole in the wall. He successfully entered the room through the hole he made. Kaya! Yaoyorozu screamed. Izuku for his part blushed heavily. Yaoyorozu was in the process of making some more barricades, so Izuku got a full view of all her beautiful glory. It didn't help that her costume was currently torn. She created a bat and rushed at him, still blushing. Wait! Wait! Izuku tried to calm her down, but she was all ready to close. The bat shattered upon impact, but Izuku didn't even flinch. The recoil caused Yaoyorozu to trip, and Izuku tried to catch her. Yaoyorozu was trying to cover her chest with her hand, so Izuku couldn't grab both her hands. Yaoyorozu fell onto Izuku, and his hand landed on her backside. Izuku blushed even harder. I'm so sorry. Izuku repeatedly bowed. ᴅᴇᴜᴜᴜ. Yaoyorozu muttered something Izuku couldn't hear. Yaoyorozu-san? Izuku cautiously tried to get closer. You have to take responsibility. She shouted at him. Izuku began to panic. A hero team wins? All Might announced. Izuku had to literally become a ninja for the day. The moment he returned to the viewing area, Yaoyorozu clung to him like lifeline. As if he disappeared, her life was over. Then he had to hide from a raging Bakugo who couldn't take a lose. Now Izuku was finally near his room, but luck had it out for him. Bakugo was waiting in front of his door, growling. Oh come on, Izuku whispered. He slowly crawled back down the stairs. Once he reached the second floor he tried to stand up, only for his head to hit something soft. Izuku slowly turned his head, not moving anything else. Once he was fully turned, he found Yaoyorozu. He was between her chest. I surrender, Izuku muttered from his position. Yaoyorozu was blushing, but dragged him to her room. For the rest of his day, he spent it being a body pillow. For some odd reason, he felt refreshed. Cynthia felt a surge of pride. I feel like a proud mom, Cynthia said for some odd reason. You're not even married, her secretary spoke up. Proud sister? Cynthia suggested. You're an only child, her secretary countered. Surrogate sister? Cynthia provided. To whom exactly? Her secretary raised an eyebrow. Izuku, Cynthia answered. Who's that? Her secretary began typing on her laptop. You wouldn't know, Cynthia waved her off. Secret quest completed. Be a man. Task, sleep with a woman, technically. Didn't think you had it in you. Reward, party buff. Izuku was woken up by the sound of his quirk, but all he saw was darkness. Where am I? Izuku spoke but it was muffled. It felt like he was tied up and something was moving. Suddenly the thing that was combing his head was removed. Wawa, Izuku saw Yaoyorozu yawning. Wow. Aye. Izuku didn't know what to say as Yaoyorozu finally laid her eyes on him. Izuku noticed her cheeks redden a little before she got up from her bed and go to her bathroom. Izuku walked to the bathroom, in her unusually cramped room. Everything looked so big, even the bed. Get in here. Izuku jumped at her shout. I can't, you're still in there, Izuku protested. You're my fiancé now. Deal with it. Yaoyorozu shouted from the bathroom. Izuku froze. Yaoyorozu stomped out of the bathroom, hair still wet, with a towel covering her privates. Why won't Yaoyorozu stopped herself when she saw what Izuku looked like. He was frozen in disbelief. You're the first to see me in such manner, which is why you must take responsibility, Yaoyorozu said in finality. Oh, Izuku weakly said. Yaoyorozu sighed. Look on the bright side, you're rich now, Yaoyorozu patted him in the back. Where did you find such a rule? Izuku asked, hoping she just read it in a fairy tale or something. It's how my mother got my father, as well as my grandmother to my grandfather. You will also adapt to the Yaoyorozu name, Yaoyorozu explained with a smile. So his faith was sealed. Makoto Yaoyorozu felt her maternal instincts spike. My daughter has found her man, she exclaimed. Her husband and the staff all gave a silent prayer. Today all you will having one-on-one Pokemon battles, Aizawa announced. And since I do not trust All Might to handle any more classes, I will be here to supervise, Aizawa grumbled as All Might sulked in the corner. Izuku looked confused. It's due to your fight with Bakugo, Yaoyorozu explained as she stood next to him. Huh? Izuku looked even more confused. Everyone look at the screen to see your opponent, Aizawa announced. Izuku looked at the screen to see that he was up against Mineta. Squash the grape. Task, destroy Mineta. Reward? Bonus, affection from Yaoyorozu? His quirk was being weird again. Hey! What about the rewards from yesterday? Izuku screamed in his head. Reward, 10 slot tokens. Reward, Aegis. Better, Izuku said in satisfaction. Yaoyorozu raised an eyebrow. The other girls just stared in confusion. Momo Yaoyorozu has been added to your party. Momo Yaoyorozu. Title, tamed a sleeping dragon. Momo squeaked when she suddenly began glowing green, then a panel appeared in front of her. Momo Yaoyorozu. Title, tamed a sleeping dragon. Pokemon, 3. Kirlia. Dratini. Fennekin. Strength, 23. Agility, 20. Intelligence, 145. Dexterity, 34. Stamina, 34. Durability, 20. Oh my, Momo muttered as she glanced at Izuku. Buff has been applied. All stats has been raised by 50. Momo felt so much power wash over her body. She looked at the screen and saw her match was against Bakugo, and they were the first fight. Yaoyorozu and Bakugo. Choose one Pokemon to fight alongside you, Aizawa ordered. Bakugo chose his Cyndaquil, while Momo chose her Fennekin. I'm going to fucking destroy you, Ponytail, Bakugo growled. No thank you, that will be Izuku's job in bed. Momo did not mean to say that. The effect was immediate. Aizawa grumbled something in another language. The girls all gasped with star in their eyes, especially Mina. The guys stared at Izuku with awe, shock, disbelief, and jealousy. Mineta began crying. Izuku himself stood frozen. The fuck did you just say? Bakugo roared and unleashed a massive explosion. Yaoyorozu! Aizawa called out but was surprised to see that she was fine. Momo was surprised as well. Fennekin use Ember. She ordered while Bakugo was still shocked. The attack hit Bakugo and his Cyndaquil. Momo created a staff and charged as Bakugo was trying to block the embers. She was surprised by her speed, but then when she slammed her staff into Bakugo's side, he was sent flying to the other end of Gym Gamma. Momo looked so confused. Yaoyorozu, Momo turned to Aizawa-sensei. Mind explaining to me what just happened, Aizawa grumbled. Momo turned to Izuku. Problem child. Aizawa-sensei called out. As if Izuku knew that it was his name now, he ran up to them. Explain. I got a party buff from New York Quirk? Izuku answered uncertain. You buff people with sex? Aizawa asked in annoyance. No. Both Momo and Izuku denied. Mina squealed. Whatever, keep it in moderation, Aizawa-sensei grumbled, leaving the two problem children blushing. The matches continued. Todoroki simply froze Sato and his Pokemon. Kirishima overwhelmed Siro with her Rhydon. The matches continued until it was time for Izuku's match. The girls cheered for him. Squash that grape. Eternal damnation. End him. Castration. Hit him in the nuts. End his bloodline. Izuku did not know how to react to that. Mayonetta and his Rowlet stood at the other end of the arena. I'll defeat you and prove myself to Yaoyorozu, then those Yaoyoropays will be mine, Mayonetta ranted. I'd rather die. Yaoyorozu shouted. Izuku just looked at Mayonetta in disgust. Then his Lucario came out on its own. The others gasped at the entrance of the Pokemon. He has a Lucario. Kaminari gasped. Such a powerful Pokemon, Ojiro said in awe. Thank God Bakugo was unconscious. Roo! Lucario growled as it punched its palms together. Rowlet panicked. Mayonetta shaked in fear. The match did not last long. Bone Rush! Lucario charged with amazing speed, swatting Rowlet out of the way and heading straight for Mayonetta. He tried to throw his balls. Agility! Lucario blurred, easily dodging the pathetic attempts to stop it. Mayonetta got swatted out of a window. Midoriya wins, Aizawa-sensei grumbled as he went to get Mayonetta outside. The girls cheered for the demise of the grape. Izuku never thought he'd be back here. But here he was, fighting in Royal Arena. The crowd cheering as his Flygon used Dragon Tail to knock out another challenger. Izuku cycled through his Pokemon depending on the opponent. Fracture, Arcanine, and Bagon had a fair amount battles. For the past week, Izuku also began receiving some requests every so often. Mostly from Psycho and Telly. He was starting to become an improvised bodyguard for her. But then it happened. Hello? Izuku answered his phone. Hello Pikachuman, the voice sounded so familiar but more mature. How can I help you ma'am? Izuku asked since the voice sounded a lot like a woman's. I wish to know if you could accompany to my daughter on her trip, the woman spoke. That won't be a problem ma'am, Izuku answered. Why don't tell him the details thin dear, the woman said, then Izuku heard some shuffling. Hello? This voice sounded way too familiar. Hello, Izuku was beginning to get nervous. I was planning on going on a trip with my fiancé in order to catch a Pokemon pair for the two of us, the woman explained. Sure ma'am, Izuku began sweating nervously. And I hope you mind some, noise, the woman trailed off. Izuku gulped. That won't be a problem ma'am. Terrific! The woman exclaimed. The call ended and Izuku's heart began beating faster. He heard a knock from the door. He opened it to see Momo. I have trip planned for us this weekend, I even hired a bodyguard for us, Momo informed him in a cheery tone. Why you mean Pikachuman? Izuku hesitated to ask. How did you know? Momo looked at him in confusion, then her eyes wandered to his bed. Where a case was placed with an all-too-familiar goofy mask on it. Momo gasped. Izuku paled. She locked his door. Izuku gulped. Era darling, looks like you impressed me yet again. Her dress fell on the floor. Izuku went with it. Be a man. For real. We're proud of you. Reward, Dexterity plus 50. Growth Pendant has activated. Dexterity has increased by 50. What's your opinion of them? Nizu asked as he passed a cup of tea. A man with long light green hair, dressed in a white long-sleeve shirt and brown pants, sat in front of Nizu. He was examining two files and some footages. Specifically Midoriya and Bakugo. Midoriya is a good person that needs to learn to fight, while Bakugo is a fighter that needs to be a good person, the man spoke. What makes you say that? Nizu asked with a glint in his eyes. Mr. Midoriya has proven to be an amazing fighter. He holds back too much, the man informed. He was able to strengthen Miss Yaoyorozu enough to easily defeat Bakugo, and yet he himself could not do the same, the man explained. Isn't simply a boosting ability? Nizu asked. No, it isn't.
It is a bond, in which he shares a part of his power, the man answered.
Nizu's eyes sparked with curiosity as he pondered Izuku's capabilities.
It is amazing how someone quirkless achieved such a thing, the man said in wonder.
Nizu became confused. What do you mean, N? Nizu asked in a bit of doubt.
His power is not the work of a quirk, but a trial of someone all-powerful, N explained.
A god? Nizu speculated.
Most likely, N sipped on his cup of tea.
Nizu had never been more excited.
Izuku never thought he'd have a chance with a girl, so the fact that he was naked, while Momo slept on top of him felt like a dream.
Izuku did not have the guts to move as well.
He was afraid of what might happen, since every healthy man had something in common.
Morning wood. Izuku could hear Bakugo screaming outside, probably getting dragged away by Kirishima.
Izuku sighed, but that caused a few strands of Momo's hair to fall on his face, making him sneeze. The sudden movement made Izuku flinch when he felt his manhood touch something moist.
Right.
They were both naked. Yayarozu began waking up. She started to get up, but when she sat down,
Eep! She squeaked as something slipped in. Ugh, Izuku groaned when he felt it as well.
I guess we get to have some morning exercise, darling, Momo purred.
Izuku definitely felt like he was dreaming.
Aizawa was grumbling so early in the morning. The damn rat called him in so early.
Just in time, Nizu's voice called out as the door opened by itself. What is it this time? Aizawa grumbled. Meet the new teacher for Pokemon theory. Yes, that's a made-up subject.
It is a pleasure to meet you, a green-haired man spoke.
Aizawa just knew things would get even more stressful. Izuku was very thankful that it was a Saturday.
His legs weren't in the best shape at the moment.
But Izuku wanted to be a good fiancé and make Momo breakfast in bed.
When he got down, he was surprised to see noon.
He looked at the clock and that it was 6 in the morning. Did they have sex that early in the morning? Izuku felt proud.
Izuku absent-mindedly started making a batch of pancakes, but with his sudden increase in dexterity,
Izuku didn't notice that he was making a lot.
Once he realized, he had already made 57 pieces.
How was that even possible?
There was only 2 frying pans.
Title: Motivated by a beauty has activated. Don't question it.
Izuku was starting to fear his quirk.
What?
Class 1A was surprised to see a bunch of pancakes on the table.
Where did these come from? Only 2 eggs were missing? Sato asked in disbelief. Do we have a guardian angel?
Mina, Toru, and Kaminari asked at the same time.
Fracture began beating up a mag mortar at the arena. Fracture was what you would call Izuku's inner Bakugo. It strived to prove Izuku was not weak, it wants to make sure Izuku stood at the top.
If Lucario wanted to stood side by side with Izuku, Fracture wanted Izuku to ride on its back and look down on everyone who looked down on him.
With another Dragon Pulse, Fracture took down another pebble in Izuku's road to be the best. Time for today's special event. A free-for-all. The announcer informed and the crowd cheered. Fracture noticed Izuku stammering, unaware of what was happening.
Fracture roared, announcing its desire. Every Pokemon that entered the stage aimed at Fracture. Fracture began to shine as energy surrounded it, preparing for Giga Impact.
With a mighty roar, Fracture shot forward.
Decimating every Pokemon it collided, Fracture's claws began emitting energy as well. Using Dragon Claw and Giga Impact at the same time. In a shocking turn of events, Pikachumon's Fracture has defeated every Pokemon in the arena.
The only thing left were the trainers. The bright light vanished, revealing a black Haxorus.
With a mighty roar, it sent every other trainer running. Haxorus felt pride as Izuku got closer to his goal.
Dragon Master. Task 3, completed. Reward, Dragon Essence. That just felt weird to read. Dragon Essence.
Greatly enhances the growth of the user.
Grants random effects. Izuku perked up. He immediately called back his celebrating Haxorus and looked for a waiting room. Once inside, he activated the slot machine and used the Draw 10. Draw 10 has been activated. Bonus reward: agility has increased by 25. Strength has increased by 5. 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 Rare Candy 10. Rare Candy 10. Stamina has increased by 5. Stamina has increased by 5. Stamina has increased by 5. Dragon Essence reacted. New stat has been unlocked. Perception has been unlocked. Perception has increased by 50. Growth Pendant has activated. Agility has increased by 25. Strength has increased 25. Stamina has increased by 15. Perception has increased by 50. Izuku suddenly screamed in pain as a massive headache attacked his head. His senses were being overclocked. A few seconds later and he fainted. Kyoka believed having enhanced hearing was a blessing and a curse. Hearing Yamamoe mumble something in her room was both. She could hear Yamamoe mumble as she was researching about lewd lingerie. Midoriya, you lucky bastard. Oh, this should excite him. Yamamoe exclaimed. Kyoka blushed even harder. We should do it here, Yamamoe said in wonder. Kyoka wanted to die of embarrassment. Izuku groaned as he woke up. You good? He heard a familiar voice. Ha! Izuku saw that it was Diantha, and his head was currently using her lap as a pillow. Neat. When Izuku opened the door of his room, he was surprised to see Momo humming to herself. But what shocked her the most was that she was folding baby clothes. No! Izuku panicked. Momo was startled by his outburst and dropped the clothes she was holding. I'm too young to be a father. What would Mom say? What would my sister say? Oh God! She's going to kill me. Izuku began to mutter as he had mental crisis. Calm down, Izuku, I'm not pregnant, Momo assured. You're not? Izuku stopped his muttering. Momo nodded. Izuku sighed in relief. But what's with that? Izuku pointed to the baby clothes. Those are for Pokemons, girls like to dress up Pokemon, you know, Momo explained. Why here? Izuku asked. No reason, Momo said as she got up and resumed folding clothes. Izuku still felt uneasy for some reason. Good thing he didn't have some very cute Pokemon. Speaking of Pokemon, the team he currently had was Haxorus, Lucario, and Trico. He didn't really like bringing all of them all the time, especially when he leaves the arena. That begs the question. Momo, do you know where Pokemon that aren't on our teams go? Izuku asked Momo, who was still folding clothes. Well, each person gets a storage box and it's like giant subspace with its own ecosystem, Momo explained. Like a Pokemon paradise? Izuku asked in curiosity. I guess, we can't actually enter after all, Momo replied. Izuku just took her word for it, then he noticed that Momo was just wearing a tank top and booty shorts. He also noticed a sweater and a pajama on the floor. Did she wear that then took it off when she got here? Yes, can't have them seeing what yours, right? Momo teased. I said that out loud? Izuku blushed. Yes, Momo nodded. My hero costume was also modified with DNA fabric now too, Momo informed. Oh. Izuku perked up. Momo just giggled at his reaction. Midoriya, I tend to be blunt person, Karo, Azui spoke. Okay, Azui-san, Izuku replied. Call me Tsu, Tsu insisted. Alright, Asu-san, Izuku corrected. Better. Your quirk is very confusing, Tsu stated. I guess so, Izuku scratched the back of his head as he chuckled. Yeah man, what does it even do? Kaminari asked. Well, I can pull some random stuff from it, but most of the time it gives me stat points, Izuku explained. Stat points? Uraraka asked. Like a game? Mina looked very excited. Yes, Izuku answered. A lot of them became interested. Can I try? Or does it have to be you? Kaminari asked with hopeful eyes.
I don't actually know, but only I could see the panels after all, Izuku answered.
I saw a panel once, Momo joined. Oh, the party buff. Izuku realized and tried to give Momo a slot token. Izuku currently had 3, so he didn't mind. Look at you being selfless. Reward, 5 free spins for Momo Yaoyorozu. Izuku didn't expect that, but he definitely won't say no to such an amazing quirk. Ah, thanks. Momo looked surprised for a second. A panel probably popped out in front of her. A panel popped out in front of Izuku too. Momo Yaoyorozu is using the slot machine. Rewards: 1 memory slot. 1 memory slot. 1 memory slot. 1 memory slot. 1 rare candy. The fuck is a memory slot? Memory slot. Unique to Momo Yaoyorozu. Allows the user to completely save a specific data on them. I just got an item that helps with my own quirk, Momo stated. Really? That's so cool. Minato exclaimed. It's hard to get tokens though, Izuku explained. Really? How? Kaminari asked. At first it wanted me to fight a salamence, then it wanted me to fully evolve a dragon type. Izuku told the story of how he got some his slot tokens. That's so manly. Kirishima cheered. I guess it takes a long time just to get one. I mean, you probably haven't even completed the evolve a dragon type one, Kaminari spoke. Izuku looked away. You haven't, right? Kaminari asked in worry. Izuku didn't respond. You haven't, right? Kaminari began sweating as some of them began to watch and worry. Having a fully evolved dragon type was big deal. Dragon types were known to be one of the most powerful types of Pokemon after all. Show me. Kaminari began shaking Izuku. Show them your Flygon, Izuku, Momo commented. I don't have Flygon with me, I don't bring Flygon with me to school, Izuku explained. I see, what about hacks? Momo was stopped by Izuku putting a hand to her mouth. Haha, maybe after class, Izuku promised. Momo raised an eyebrow at him. Upon arrival at the USJ, they were greeted by 13 and her Solrock. Uraraka squealed at the sight of her favorite hero. 13 giving a speech about how dangerous quirks can be in HKW. Some Pokemon were potentially dangerous to be around. As 13 was explaining, Izuku felt something was off. He sensed something from the plaza. Sensei! Izuku shouted and pointed at the plaza. Everyone saw some purple mist appearing at the plaza, then a group of people began coming through. Then a horde of Pokemon with unusual marking all over their body came out. Where the fuck is All Might? A villain covered in hands complained. Everyone get back to the bus. Aizawa ordered, but the mist villain opened a portal and a group Pokemon with the same markings came out, blocking their escape. I guess I'll need to settle with some NPCs, the villain spoke. Izuku couldn't even do anything as he was thrown into a portal. He was currently in the shipwreck zone, and cursed at his lack of water types. Sue and Minato was with him. Minato began crying, and he was tempted to throw him overboard. Some villains began surrounding them. He was thankful he dropped on the boat, and not in the water. Attack! Task: beat villains. Reward: 5 slot tokens. Bonus task: beat the boss. Reward: 2 slot tokens plus? Now or never. Izuku prepared to throw his strongest punch yet. Sue and Minato looked at him with confused expression. Izuku was sparked with green electricity, the sparks violently covering his body. When Izuku punched, a powerful shockwave was created. Sue and Minato almost got thrown off the ship. The powerful blast of air sent the villains flying as the water in the lake practically exploded all over the USJ. Hopefully nobody died, hopefully. What the fuck was that? Minato screamed as he could barely stand from the shock. I don't even know, Izuku was the most surprised of them all. You're just like All Might, Sue commented, while staring at the giant crater where what's left of the lake was gathered. The shock didn't last long as they made their way to the plaza. Izuku fought most of the villains at the plaza. He had his Absol, Greninja, Umbreon, and ᴅᴜᴜ helping him fight. Izuku's Pokemon clearly dominated their fight, but the amount of enemies were getting to them. Then it began to rain? Izuku turned to the shipwreck zone and saw a giant wave heading for them. Problem child, Izuku muttered before using his capture weapon to grab hold of a pillar. His ᴅᴜᴜ and Greninja helped his other Pokemon prepare for the giant wave. Most of the villains got washed away by the wave, a lot of them getting knocked out. Ojiro and Aoyama were fighting together in the conflagration zone when it began raining. Ha! Ojiro became confused when suddenly a massive wave of water went over the wall of the conflagration zone. Shoko basically froze the whole landslide. She saw the explosion in the shipwreck zone, then it started raining. She saw the wave hit the edge of the landslide zone. Can your All Might killer beat that? Shoko asked the frozen villains. They all just paled even more. When Izuku and the others arrived at the plaza, they were surprised to see the lack of fighting. Everyone looked like they were wet and some even looked like they just got out of a flood. The hand villain was coughing out water as a giant villain with an exposed brain stood beside him. Damn NPC! Nomu, kill him! The villain ordered. The giant villain suddenly appeared in front of Izuku, then a golden barrier blocked the Nomu's fist. Izuku prepared to fight back. Get to the plaza! Izuku shouted at Tsu and Mineta as his body got covered in green lightning. What about you? Tsu asked in concern. I'll hold it off, Izuku spoke. Ha, the Nomu was built to kill All Might, you think you can beat it, the hand villain boasted as some of the Pokemon that came with him started to gather again. Then time to go plus ultra. Izuku announced. The lightning surrounding him increased and sparked more violently. His skin began to glow and redden as his hair started to rise as the energy flowed through him. New title acquired. Hero for All. Hero for All. Allows the holder to link with his Pokemon. Izuku's Lucario, Haxorus, and Trico came out of their Pokeball. Lucario had blue and silver lightning surrounding it. Trico had green lightning like Izuku. Haxorus had black and red lightning sparking all over its body. Izuku punched the Nomu, sending it flying through the plaza. Izuku's Pokemon began destroying the other Pokemon with the hand villain. Izuku was surprised when the Pokemon turned into gray sludge after being taken down. The hand villain began ranting and boasting when the Nomu got back up. Izuku matched it blow for blow, the Nomu clearly getting pushed back. As Izuku fought the Nomu, he activated his unused TM. TM Focus Punch has been used. Go beyond. Izuku clenched his fist and prepared his most powerful punch. Focus Punch. Izuku yelled as he unleashed his most powerful attack, sending the Nomu flying out of the USJ, and creating a tornado that shot through the roof. Plus Ultra. Momo was fighting villains with Kyoka and Kaminari, until a villain managed to take Kaminari hostage. Now both of them had to surrender to avoid Kaminari from being killed. Although Momo's new hero costume covered her entire body, it still showed her curves and assets. And that seemed to attract the villain's attention. Looks like I'm going to have some fun, the villain smirked. The villain had an Electabuzz with him, which began circling behind Momo and Kyoka. Thankfully, someone came to their rescue. A black blur crashed down, and the next thing they knew, the villain was sent flying. The blur was revealed to be Izuku's Lucario, that had lightning sparking around its body. Lucario had Bone Rush activated and immediately attacked the Electabuzz. Such speed, Momo muttered as Lucario easily took out the Electabuzz. We need to go Yamamo, Kyoka shouted as she dragged Kaminari. Right, Momo followed and Lucario ran somewhere else. Izuku felt exhausted, that last attack took a lot out of him. Additionally, he didn't know if anybody managed to get some help. Haxorus was demolishing the weird sludge-turning Pokemon, but the hand villain and mist villain were still here. Where even is Aizawa-sensei? No. 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 The Nomu was supposed to kill All Might.
The hand villain began scratching his neck, which made Izuku very uncomfortable watching. The fact that the hand villain was having a tantrum just made feel even more weird. Tamura Shigaraki, we need to go, the mist villain.
Shut up, Kurogyari.
The hand villain yelled in anger. The villain started to run towards Izuku, but a familiar scarf wrapped around the villain's leg, making him fall face first to the ground.
We shall retreat for now, the mist villain said as he began to cover the hand villain on the floor.
Izuku flicked his finger to try and shoot some kind of air shot, but the villain was already gone.
Problem child, Izuku heard Aizawa-sensei's tired voice but decided to just fuck it and faint. Shoko watched everything that happened as she went down from the landslide zone.
The power comparable or even greater than All Might, then the finishing move that showed even greater power. That's what her father wanted to surpass.
Would ice even hold him down? Would flames even burn through his skin? Would she even stand a chance?
Nothing made sense to her anymore. UA was alert of the attack, after seeing the massive tornado that shot out of the USJ. Every pro hero in the area rushed to USJ, but they were already too late. The villains were already taken, and most of the students already made it outside.
The only ones missing from the group was Izuku Midori, Katsuki Bakugo, and Eiko Kirishima.
They already found Midoriya fainted in the plaza with Eraserhead.
Bakugo and Kirishima were found searching for villains to fight. They also had to convince Midoriya's overpowered Haxorus that they weren't enemies.
Honestly, why would a teenager have a Pokemon that can take out an army by itself? It took All Might's Machamp and Lucario along with Nizu's Bisharp to stop it.
Midoriya's Lucario and Trico were a lot more reasonable. Simply listening to words.
All the students were sent back to the dorms and allowed their families to see them. During the investigation, the police found 162 piles of sludge that held the DNA of different types of Pokemon. Additionally, 23 Pokemon with strange markings were captured. 120 villains were captured, ranging from E-C rank villains.
Most of them not having any Pokemon.
The media some got wind of what happened, and crowded outside of UA.
The school didn't allow them near any of the students, activating the UA barricade on them.
Although Izuku Midoriya was the only one hospitalized, he did not have any notable injuries and barely had any cuts or scrapes on him.
The police also found out throughout the testimonies of his classmates that Izuku Midoriya was the one to defeat the main villain. Further investigation would be needed. Steven read through the files of the UA-USJ attack.
He wasn't exactly part of the investigation, but his opinion was greatly valued. He was one of the few people to be a hero and detective after all. His strength is a bit odd, Steven observed. His quirk is called Gotcha, but no mention of what he gets from it, Steven stated. According to his classmates, he gets stat points from it, Tsukachi replied. So he gets physically stronger every time he uses it, Steven figured out.
But obviously there's more, Steven pointed out, and Tsukachi nodded.
Based on his fiancé, he has a wide range of other abilities, such as boosting, Tsukachi explained.
Does he have family members with similar quirks? Steven asked, and he noticed Tsukachi flinch and began to sweat nervously. None with any similar quirk at all.
His mother's side had telekinetic quirks, while his father's side had fire-based quirks, Tsukachi explained.
Any noteworthy relatives? Steven asked again. Tsukachi gulped.
Well, he has an older sister in America, Tsukachi informed with a little too much nervousness.
Is she some big shot? Steven wondered. Tsukachi nodded. The tornado of terror, Tsukachi admitted. Steven paled. Nizu kept his cool when the news of UA getting attacked was leaked.
He made sure that his students got enough rest and given time with their family.
He also kept the media away from them, making full use of UA's defenses.
But the main problem was the Midoriyas. Izuku Midoriya was the only one that required to be taken to a hospital, but was given treatment by Recovery Girl instead. His mother was manageable, she just cried and worried a lot for her son. But his sister was the real problem. When Nizu got an international number calling him, he inspected an international government, not the tornado of terror. She demanded to see Izuku Midoriya and revealed that she was his sister, Tatsumaki Midoriya. It took all of Nizu's energy and effort to stop her from flying all the way from America and wreak havoc in his school. Unfortunately, she was still coming to UA. God help him. Izuku woke up to see the white ceiling of Recovery Girl's clinic. He was wearing a hospital gown, and was currently alone in the clinic. Is that even allowed? He sat up, feeling no pain or grogginess whatsoever. Dragon Master. Task completed. Reward, Dragon Candy. Attack. Task completed. Reward, 5 slot tokens. Bonus task completed. Reward, 2 slot tokens plus gold token. Since Izuku was alone, why not use it all, right? Izuku called for the slot machine and activated the Draw 10. Bonus reward, Yacht. 10 rare candy. 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 Durability has increased by 5. 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 A yacht? Where would he get that? Izuku pondered but decided to use the gold token first. A golden slot machine appeared, but this one didn't have a draw 10 function. Golden reward, durability stat has been upgraded to Indomitable. Growth pendant has activated. Indomitable has increased by 20. Izuku currently had 80 rare candy now. He pondered on how to use it. He decided he would split it between his Pokemon. Mostly Trico, Bagon, Gible, and Eevee. Izuku went to the Pokemon PC in Recovery Girl's clinic and began sorting through his Pokemon. Taking out the 4 he wanted to give rare candy to. Flygon, Haxorus, Arcanine, and Lucario would no longer benefit from it after all. The 4 Pokemon received 20 each. That allowed Trico to finally evolve into a Grovyle and Bagon to a Shelgon. Izuku then decided to use his Thunderstone on Eevee, evolving it into a Jolteon. He wanted to give it a Water Stone, but he'll just catch a Water type. Why are you up? Izuku turned to see Recovery Girl walking towards him with a cane in hand. I felt better? That was the wrong thing to say. Izuku got whacked by her cane, then she performed a checkup on him. He was fine, but Recovery Girl ordered him to stay in bed for the night. He'll be discharged tomorrow. Izuku was not prepared for what waited for him the next day. Izuku honestly didn't know how Indomitable worked as a stat. He barely even knew how his stats compared to normal people. Izuku was lucky he hasn't killed anyone yet. It didn't help that UA seemed to not care how his quirk worked. Oh right, Izuku was currently in bed with Momo. She's still asleep, but was still cuddling him. Izuku never knew how much having someone beside him would make him feel happy. She might have not given him a choice, but he'd be dumb to refuse. It helped that Izuku had a slight crush on her after she made canon during Aizawa Sensei's test. But, does he deserve this? Man up. Task, get self-confidence. Reward, a backbone. That was just insulting. How is the training going? All Might asked. Well, enough, Ryukyu replied. She looked a bit haggard. Fine, Fat Gum answered as he ate a chocolate bar. Both Nijire and Amajiki had adjusted well to 1 for all's enhancement to their quirks. The limbs Amajiki manifested were a lot stronger, and his transformation time was greatly reduced. Nijire could release large outputs of her quirk easier now. Getting used to their new quirks took some time though. With strength enhancement and a completely new quirk as well, it became quite the task. How are we going to explain this too? Ryukyu asked. I already found a solution for that, Night Eye said, showing them a file. Izuku Midoriya again? Ryukyu raised an eyebrow. He managed to give his girlfriend a massive boost in strength and other abilities. With his help we can explain the Big Three's new abilities, Night Eye explained. Does the kid know your plan? Ryukyu narrowed her eyes at Night Eye. She knew the man's attitude after all. We haven't informed him yet, Night Eye revealed, and Ryukyu looked pissed. Then you should get to it, Ryukyu shoved the file at Night Eye. Before stomping out the training gym.
What's with her? Fat Gum asked as he watched the whole interaction. She seemed protective, Fat Gum noticed. Oh. 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 I know why. ᴍᴜ said as she came closer. Yes, young ᴜᴘ? All might.
The Midoriya guy is actually her distant nephew, ᴍᴜ revealed.
Really?
Mirio asked as he walked closer. Yeah, Ryukyu did a background check on him, then found out his father was her distant cousin that decided that didn't want a leech of her success, so they moved away or something, ᴍᴜ explained.
I see, I spoke.
Why is she suddenly so protective though? Fat Gum asked.
Oh. Maybe because she's a dragon. ᴍᴜ exclaimed.
Everyone raised an eyebrow at her.
Dragon's horde. ᴍᴜ pouted. Ah.
Was the general response.
Class 1A sat in common room. Everyone mostly minded their business, idly talking to their friends. Izuku, however, sat beside Momo as she read a book. Izuku was simply watching TV, when Momo suddenly asked a question. If we got married, do you have a lot relatives that would come? Momo asked. Then the common room froze. But something made everyone even more uneasy.
Bakugo, who was playing a video game with Kaminari, suddenly began shivering, as if he saw a ghost. My sister and my mom, I guess, Izuku responded.
That made Bakugo flinch. Is that all? Momo seemed concerned.
Well, my dad isn't around anymore. Izuku looked down, nobody decided to ask further. Suddenly the door slammed open, nobody noticed Bakugo's soul leave his body. Class 1A was surprised to see the most terrifying hero in America. The Tornado of Terror.
Her hero name is actually Tornado of Terror. Where is he? She shouted. Nobody had the balls to ask who she was talking about. "En-ne-san," Izuku squeaked out. Multiple heads snapped at his direction in shock. Izuku was wrapped in a green glow as he was floated towards Tatsumaki. The moment she was in range, Tatsumaki hugged his head, rubbing her face in his hair. Oh, I was so worried about you, Tatsumaki doted on Izuku. Class 1A looked shocked, looking blankly at the two. Tatsumaki shot them a glare, and half of 1A ran in fear. Some were too afraid to move. Tatsumaki's head snapped towards the voice. It is nice to meet you, En-ne-san, Momo bowed. Tatsumaki's eyes narrowed at her. Who are you? Tatsumaki glared at her ample chest. My name is Momo Yaoyorozu, Momo bowed again. She's my fiancé, Izuku mumbled out from Tatsumaki's hug. Ha? Tatsumaki said in shock. What's going on? Aizawa asked as they were called by Nizu.
The Tornado of Terror is testing one of her students, Nizu revealed. All the teachers flinched.
What is she doing here? Midnight asked in fear.
She is Mr. Izuku Midoriya's older sister, Nizu revealed.
All Might paled. That woman terrified him.
Super strength isn't exactly useful when you can't move, and traveling towards space in extreme speed.
Who's the unlucky victim? Present Mike asked. Momo Yaoyorozu, Nizu answered. Poor kid, Midnight added. Momo's Curlia slumped in defeat as Tatsumaki's Gardevoir appeared and the sheer presence defeated Momo's Pokemon. Is that it? Tatsumaki mocked. Fighting the number 2 hero in America isn't exactly fair, Izuku grumbled. Fine.
Let's go to your room, Tatsumaki yelled at Izuku.
Why? Izuku asked in worry.
I need to see if she at least satisfy you, otherwise that body is worthless, Tatsumaki pointed at a blushing Momo.
What? You're gonna watch us? Izuku asked in panic. Alabama, Kaminari whispered to Siro. Mineta didn't even get a chance to speak as Bakugo dragged him away.
That is very inappropriate, Momo said as she still kept blushing.
After a lot convincing, Izuku managed to calm Tatsumaki down.
Tatsumaki begrudgingly accepted Momo, but still occasionally glared at her chest.
After a tiring day, Izuku managed to fall asleep with Momo by his side.
Then he found himself in a dark void.
Hey kid, a woman who looked similar to Momo but older appeared. Hello? Izuku asked in confusion. My name is Nana Shimura, and I'm inside your quirk, Nana introduced herself. Huh? Izuku became even more confused. Nana began to explain everything about One for All. About its origins and the past wielders. She also explained that he now had a fragment of One for All inside him. So this is Mindscape? Izuku asked. Yes, Nana answered. Then who's she? Izuku pointed to a woman wearing an office uniform. She had green hair just like him, with black glasses over her green eyes. She had a slender figure, and just looked very professionnel. I'm your quirk, she answered. Okay. Izuku decided to accept that given how strange his quirk is. Suddenly the surrounding changed, from a dark void into a casual living room, but without any stuff. What just happened? Nana asked in surprise. Well, this is my mindscape, right? Izuku spoke. This place is directly connected to your inventory, the office quirk lady informed. Do you have a name? Izuku asked. The office lady shook her head. I'll call you Gachi-san, Izuku spoke. Some stuff started popping into existence in the empty living room. A chair, a folding table, and other stuff. I guess this will do for now, Izuku muttered, making a mental note to get some appliances. You may teleport your physical body here when needed, Gachi informed. Neat. After meeting his quirks, Izuku woke up early in the morning. He couldn't actually get up since Momo always slept on top of him, and he didn't want to wake up. He still wasn't used to her body being so close to him. He wondered where his sister is right now. She's probably enjoying her vacation. Being the number 2 hero was definitely tiring. But that managed to support them financially. Izuku and his mother never needed a lot of money anyway. Hey, can you hear me? A panel appeared but no voice. No? Izuku answered. Damn, that's too bad, it must be Nana. Izuku decided to use the chat system. Fortunately, Izuku saw Nana's name in the contacts. Izuku pressed the call function. A panel appeared showing Nana inside the makeshift living room. Oh, this is nice, Nana spoke through. Maybe I could talk to Toshi like this. Izuku sweetie, who's that? Izuku looked down to see Momo awake but still laying on his chest. My quirk? Izuku kneeling in front of Momo as she held a whip in her hand. When exactly do you plan telling me about this? She narrowed her eyes at him. Soon. Nice try, Izuku. Really? Momo's smile sent shivers up his spine. Nobody dared to help Izuku. I hope all of you are ready, Aizawa said as he stood in front of the class. Tomorrow is the sports festival. You only have 4 chances in your time here in UA to make yourselves known to the world. Yes, sensei. The class chorused. Aizawa grumbled a reply before going to sleep. I'm going to my best. Uraraka said with a very determined expression. Yeah. Kaminari and Ishido exclaimed. I'm going to do my best, Deku-kun. Uraraka turned to him. Why yeah. Izuku was slightly afraid of her right now. She seems determined, Momo commented. Izuku flinched. Why yeah, Izuku was definitely scarred for life. Izuku could hear Present Mike hyping the crowd in the arena. Izuku was nervous, millions of people were watching after all. He may found a lot about gacha and One for All from Nana, but he was still nervous. Midoriya, Izuku turned to see Shoko Todoroki behind him. Why yes. Izuku honestly didn't know much about her, and why she would even talk to him. You may be the strongest in the class, Todoroki stated. What did you fucking say? Bakugo was pulled back by Eiko. But I will beat you, no matter how strong you are, Todoroki said before turning around not exactly having anywhere to go to. They all just stood there in awkward silence. You didn't time it right, didn't you? Momo asked. No, Todoroki admitted. Momo gently pushed her, making her sit down. On Izuku's lap. Todoroki-san. Izuku turned neon. Shoko Todoroki's face remained neutral, then she stood up and walked towards the bathroom. A few seconds later the bathroom started steaming. Why would you do that? Izuku asked Momo. I need help, that was all she said before President Mike called them to the arena. Time for the opening speech. By none other than Izuku Midoriya. President Mike announced. Izuku nervously came up the podium, clearly he wasn't informed of this. I don't have a speech prepared. Izuku mentally panicked. Hello everyone. Fuck it. Hello everyone, Izuku repeated. I just want to tell everyone to their best and go plus ultra. I just want to tell everyone to their best and go plus ultra. Izuku could actually keep this going. Good luck everyone. Good luck everyone. Izuku bowed. 'Cause I'm going to win. 'Cause I'm going to win. Izuku froze once he realized what he just said. The fuck did you say, Deku? Bakugo was heard over the crowd. Izuku wanted to die of embarrassment. Thankfully Midnight came to his rescue. Time to find out the first event. Midnight announced, a big screen appearing behind her. And the first match is King of the Hill, Midnight announced, the screen displaying the event. Where did that screen come from? Kirishima asked. Plot convenience, Bakugo responded. Only 42 of you will advance to the next round, Midnight explained. One student for each of the 42 pillars. You have 20 minutes to secure your spots on top of the pillars. 42 cement pillars came out of the ground. Begin. The students scrambled to climb the pillars. Most of the pillars got occupied by the hero course students. The other classes tried to take their spots. The less combat-oriented students like Hagakure and Koji were struggling to secure a pillar, sometimes they would even fall off again. 10 minutes are up. Pokemon are now allowed. Midnight's announcement made some people happy, while some became horrified. And things are starting to get heated of folks. President Mike spoke. The students have called out their Pokemon and the hero course is having a tough time. As much as they were trained, they're still not used to fighting with their Pokemon, Aizawa commented. The previously struggling Kota now had the upper hand once his Diggersby joined the fight. But the others were starting to struggle. Kaminari was starting to short-circuit, Ida was running out of gas, Uraraka was getting nauseous, drawn-out fights weren't their specialty. But the well-known powerhouses weren't even being challenged for their slot. Izuku didn't know why nobody was trying to climb his pillar. All of them were crowding around the others. He could see some attacking Momo's pillar. Ida and Uraraka were getting attacked too. Izuku didn't know this, but the footage from the USJ was leaked. The world saw what he could do. The world watched him defeat the monster created to kill All Might. So who would dare attack someone as strong as All Might? Surprised to see you here, Ryukyu greeted Mirko. I was forced to come watch, Mirko said as sports festival was about to begin. How? Ryukyu raises an eyebrow. My manager said I needed public appearances, Mirko grumbled. I see, Ryukyu turned to see the first-year representative climb the podium. What are you here for? Mirko asked out of boredom. For my nephew, Ryukyu informed. Mirko just stared at her. You have a nephew? Mirko didn't believe Ryukyu. Yes I do, he's right there, Ryukyu pointed at the teenager at the podium. 'Cause I'm going to win. Ah ha ha ha. Your nephew has balls alright. Mirko cackled as Ryukyu blushed. To everyone's surprise, only a little over half of the hero course passed. They tried to immediately get a position and didn't bother to take into account a drawn-out fight, Aizawa commented. That led to them being too exhausted to defend, Aizawa finished. Bummer. President Mike added. And for our second event. Midnight showed the screen again. Battleship. The R-rated heroine announced. You will form a 2 to 4 person team and will be given a boat with a flag to protect. Each flag will have depending on how much time you stayed in your pillar in the previous round, Midnight explained. The lowest name had 5 points and the next had 10. By that pattern he should have around 200. First place has 10 million points. Midnight pointed at him. Izuku could feel the hungry looks from the students. Dragon within. Secret task? Reward? Izuku didn't even notice the panel as an unfamiliar feeling was washing over him. The desire to hoard. The kid's in trouble, ᴅᴇ commented, but she didn't get a reply from Ryukyu. She turned to see the dragon hero smirking. They're doomed, Ryukyu stated. The fuck does that mean? ᴅᴇ questioned. His eyes, the dragon hero spoke. They gave a dragon something to hoard, and told him someone wants to take it. Ryukyu's eyes shined. Shall we team up? Momo asked. Even though I have huge target on my back? Izuku stared at Momo like she was a goddess, which wasn't actually far off. Of course, sweetie, Momo rubbed his head. I want to join as well. 10 million. A pink-haired girl with goggles announced. I have tons of babies we can use. The girl began showing her inventions. Her wording made both Momo and Izuku uncomfortable but still accepted her. Nobody else seemed to want to join them, but that didn't bother them much. They were all given a boat with their points written on their flags. Once everybody got on their boat, water began to pour in the arena. Begin. Is that allowed to be shown on TV? President Mike asked Aizawa, while the microphone was muted. I don't care, Eraser grumbled a reply. The crowd was silent as they watched as Izuku Midoriya demolish everyone as he cackled like a maniac. Dragon Awaken. Bonus task, completed. Reward, Flamethrower learned. Dragon Tail learned. Dragon Rage learned. Outrage learned. Dragon Dance learned. Is that all you got? Izuku grabbed the silver-haired guy's face and threw him through a boat, making it sink. You dare take my horde with this much power? Izuku mocked as a vine-haired girl tried to capture him. Only for Izuku to breath fire. The fuck is up with this guy? A floating head with green hair asked. The blonde guy was interrupted by a torrent of flames. It didn't help that most of their Pokemon were being taken down by a black Haxorus. The Pokemon even sliced a ship in half. I got this. Kaminari announced as he started sparking. Not on my watch. A Hariyama slapped him away. Get them. Itsuka shouted. Class 1B and their Pokemon gathered on the ship in front of Izuku. Bad decision. You want my horde? Come and take it. Izuku roared as he literally flew in the air, then lifted a whole ship out of the water. Holy shit! Kirishima exclaimed. Give me your best shot, Deku. I'll fucking beat your ass. Bakugo's teammates looked at him with horror as a shadow began to cover them. Bakugo did not think this through. He was already at disadvantage since his Pokemon were both fire types. The fuck is wrong with that kid? ᴅᴇ exclaimed when the said kid threw a boat at the loud blonde. They should blame UA, Ryukyu stated. Ha ha ha. That's my brother. The majority of the crowd turned to the loud obnoxious voice. They found of the tornado of terror floating in the stands with smuggest expression in the world. The fuck? You're telling me that Broccoli Kid is your nephew and that? ᴅᴇ pointed at Tatsumaki. Gremlin's little brother, ᴅᴇ finished. Apparently, Ryukyu replied. Is also my cousin. They turned a busty dark-haired woman wearing fancy clothes. Fubuki, ᴅᴇ groaned. You too? Ryukyu spoke. Yes, his mother is the younger sister of my mother, Fubuki informed. The kid was practically born to be a hero, ᴅᴇ complained. Well, only the latest generation of our family became heroes, so not quite, Fubuki corrected. Bitch, ᴅᴇ grumbled. Keep taking an Aizu might make you one, Fubuki countered. I wouldn't mind, ᴅᴇ grinned. Having all that power ram me, ᴅᴇ added. Fubuki blushed in embarrassment before stomping away. Did you really have to do that? Ryukyu asked in annoyance. But I'm serious, ᴅᴇ smirked at Ryukyu. He's a minor, Ryukyu warned. Not for long, ᴅᴇ looked even smugger. I can't even deny that, Ryukyu admitted defeat. Mirko looked even more smugger. Most of the other ships were either destroyed or barely even floating. Midoriya shows no mercy to his competitors. Present Mike commented, nobody could deny it. Izuku floated over the flag of their ship. He looked over the destruction he caused. Not even Todoroki was safe. She was currently laying on the deck of her boat. Izuku didn't bother taking any flags. His own guaranteed the top spot anyway. And time's up. Present Mike announced. Izuku took his flag and flew down. The water in the stadium was drained out. Izuku took the flag and left. Nobody had the guts to stop him. So how do we devise who advances? Present Mike says with no excitement. I don't get paid enough for this, Aizawa grumbled. Momo didn't even know what to think. Izuku practically went berserk and demolished everyone. Dropping a boat on Bakugo was oddly satisfying. Here are the names that will advance, and the match UPS for the tournament. Izuku Midoriya vs Denki Kaminari. Hitoshi Shinso vs Shoko Todoroki. Momo Yaoyorozu vs Hanashiro. Mei Hatsum vs Ida Tenya. Mina Ashido vs Fumikichito Koyami. Katsuki Bakugo vs Nate Sawamura. Eiko Kirishima vs Shiozaki Ibara. Itsuka Kendo vs Aoyama Yuga. Kaminari was a done for. Stop this useless phase of yours, Shoko, Endeavor growled. You could have won all the matches so easily if you had used your fire. Endeavor roared. I don't need your power to win, Shoko growled. If you don't use your fire, you'll just be the shadow of that green-haired brat, Endeavor stated. He'll be the all might you can't surpass without using your flames. Endeavor growled. He isn't even a part of this, Shoko stated as he glared at Endeavor. He is, that's why I despise him as much as All Might, Endeavor stated. Shoko's eyes widened as Endeavor stormed away in fury. He hates Midoriya as much as All Might. Shoko muttered, as another way despite his father came to mind. Mineta tried to convince the girls to dress up as cheerleaders, but that just resulted in him getting frozen by Todoroki. During the break time, Izuku was pulled away by Todoroki. Is this the part where you tell me some SAR backstory? Izuku guessed. A part of it, Todoroki spoke. Izuku became confused. Shoko suddenly hugged him tight. He could feel her chest on his. Todoroki-san. Izuku turned bright red. Marry me, Todoroki said flatly while hugging him. Izuku couldn't believe what he was hearing. My father hates as much as All Might, so I want you to marry me, Shoko explained like it was normal. Izuku was cut off by Shoko locking her lips on his. Yaoyorozu told me both of you do that often, Shoko said to a frozen Izuku. I was the result of a quirk marriage, so I wish to pick who marry on my own accord, Shoko informed. Izuku's eyes widened. What? Endeavor raised me to surpass All Might, which he compares to you. Saying you're my All Might. So instead of surpassing you, I will be loving you, Shoko explained with her usual neutral expression. That's not how it works at all. Izuku exclaimed while still blushing. I see, then if I beat you will you agree? Shoko asked. I do. Izuku tried to answer. You do? Then it is settled, Shoko left without a word. Izuku was just left there. Shoko had a smile on her face. For the first match we have Denki Kaminari vs Izuku Midoriya. Present Mike announced. The crowd looked at the electric blonde in sympathy. I'm so screwed, Kaminari admitted. You boys ready? Midnight asked. Izuku nodded. Kaminari gave a shaky nod. Begin. 1,000,000 volts. Kaminari released his most powerful attack. Izuku didn't even flinch as the lightning struck him. The crowd just stared in shock as Kaminari's attack did nothing to Izuku. Way! Kaminari exclaimed. Izuku Midoriya is the winner. Midnight announced. Not much of a shock really, Present Mike admitted. Bad matchup, Eraser added. For the next round we have Eraserhead's secret love child, Hitoshi Shinso, versus the Ice Queen Shoko Todoroki. Present Mike announced. The crowd somewhat cheered this time. I want a clean fight, are you ready? Midnight asked the two students. Both of them nodded. Begin. Must be Shinso was cut off by massive glacier. Sorry, but I have to beat someone, Todoroki said as Midnight announced her as the winner. Izuku was sweating bullets. What's wrong, dear? Momo asked. Nothing. Izuku immediately answered. If this is about Todoroki, I won't let her steal you from me, Momo stated. Oh, Izuku wanted to say more, but Momo continued. At most I'll allow a casual relationship, but that entirely depends on her reasons. Polyamory isn't exactly legal here in Japan, Momo explained. Eh? Izuku looked confused. Don't misunderstand Izuku. I am your bride, Momo gaze stared straight through his soul. She'll be nothing more as support for me, Momo voice sent shivers up his spine. Understood? Yes, ma'am. Izuku saluted. Midori is so whipped, Shiro commented. You gotta give props to Yamamo for that, Kirishima added. For the third match we have the goddess of creation, Momo Yaoyorozu, versus the plain guy, Hanta Shiro. Present Mike introduced the two fighters. Begin. Midnight announced. Shiro immediately shot tape from his shoulders, wrapping Momo in a makeshift cocoon. Memory slot, Dragoon. The cocoon exploded, revealing Momo covered in red armor with two large cannons attached either side. Holy shit! Shiro exclaimed in shock. Fire! Momo shouted as the cannon fired two large beanbags. Shiro didn't stand a chance. Good job, Momo, Kyoka congratulated as Momo arrived back at the stands. Thank you, Kyoka, Momo replied as she turned to the arena where Ida was being used as a marketing tool. Poor Ida. Where's Izuku? Momo asked. He's probably preparing, Kyoka shrugged. Earlier. Flash mission generated. Teleporting now. Task, defeat Stain. Reward? Izuku didn't even have time to react as he was teleported to some random alley, dressed in his Pikachuman clothes. I hate this, Izuku muttered, seeing himself in the mirror. Arg! He heard someone shout in pain. You fakes must be purged. Someone yelled. Izuku was already flying at full speed, green lightning surrounding him. A doublade blocked his path, but Haxorus got him covered. Black and red lightning surrounded Haxorus as Dragon Claw sent the doublade crashing down the alley. Izuku used his Yurumi to stop the villain that was about to stab an armored guy in the ground. His Yurumi extended and clashed with the villain's blade. Pikachuman. The armored guy recognized him. Izuku cringed. He didn't even have a Pikachu. Yet. Another the villain didn't even get a chance to speak as a heavy strike sent him flying. Hey Axe! Haxorus roared at the villain, while the blade in one claw. That damn Pokemon is on steroids or something. That must be Nana. Izuku heard some police sirens. Mission complete. Izuku was covered in a bright light, then he found himself back at the school bathroom. What was that? Izuku asked in disbelief. Reward, Eri. Suddenly a white-haired little girl popped out of nowhere with a poof sound effect. Izuku caught her but she began panicking. Hey it's alright, I won't hurt you, Izuku comforted the little girl. The little girl then poofed away again, but this time she was sent to her quirks base. We'll take care of her for now. Okay? Izuku didn't know how to react to that. When Izuku came back to the arena, Tokoyami just won his match. Who's fighting next? Izuku asked Momo as he sat beside her. Bakugo, Kyoka was the one to answer. Oh. For the next match we have the guy with an explosive personality, Katsuki Bakugo vs Nate Sawamura from Gen Ed. Present Mike announced. Any info on this guy Eraser? Mike asked the too quiet commentator. Sawamura enrolled late and didn't get to take the hero course exam, so he settled for the Gen Ed course, Aizawa explained. You think an extra like you can beat me? Bakugo growled. I didn't think you were this delusional, Sawamura replied. What did two fucking say? Bakugo shouted. Begin! Midnight announced. Sawamura rushed forward. Bakugo fired an explosion, but Sawamura jumped to the side, then delivered a spinning back kick to Bakugo's side. Gah! Bakugo shouted in pain as a high kick slammed into his chin, sending him flying. He tried to use an explosion to correct himself in the air, but Sawamura jumped over him. Sawamura aimed an axe kick to Bakugo's shoulder. Die! Bakugo yelled as he fired an explosion upwards. But Sawamura's axe kick still came down, sending Bakugo crashing down to the arena. Sawamura then landed on Bakugo, driving his knee on Bakugo's stomach. Time to end this, Sawamura's fist glowed blue. As it came down Bakugo's face repeatedly. Bakugo was unconscious, Nate Sawamura wins. Midnight announced. Everybody cheered at the unknown boy's victory. But nobody was more surprised than Izuku himself. Izuku couldn't focus on the matches anymore. Even when Kirishima got wrapped by vines, then was thrown outside of the arena. Izuku didn't react. He just stared blankly at the ground. Bakugo made it his life mission to make his life miserable. But he lost so easily. Izuku couldn't accept it. He wanted to crush Bakugo himself. He wanted to be the one to kick him out of the tournament. He wanted to prove he was stronger. As the crowd cheered, Itsuka Kendo expertly dodged Aoyama's lasers, then when the blonde hit his limit, Kendo attacked and knocked him out. All that happened, but Izuku barely reacted. He didn't even register Momo concerned looks. For the quarter-finals, one Pokemon is now allowed. Present Mike announced. Each trainer will call out one Pokemon once the match begins, Eraser added. To kick us off, we have the unstoppable Green Bean versus the Ice Cold Queen. Present Mike didn't even bother to mention their names. I hope you remember our deal, Midoriya, Shoko spoke. Izuku didn't answer. Begin! Midnight crack her whip. Shoko unleashed a massive glacier that completely covered Izuku. The audience was quiet. Shoko Todoroki is the Midnight stopped as the glacier began glowing. They could see Izuku's silhouette in the ice. Izuku flexed. Welp, he's dead, Mirko commented. No he isn't, Ryukyu denied. Look at the size of that thing. Mirko gestured to the glacier. He's got this, Ryukyu said confidently. The glacier started to glow. Ryukyu gave Mirko a smug grin. Man that's cold, Kaminari spoke up. Yeah, he's gonna need a lot warming up after this, Suro added. Yamamo could handle that, Mina teased. Momo blushed but didn't deny it. Anytime now, Kyoka muttered. What is it, Kyoka? Momo raised an eyebrow at her friend. I could hear him talking in the glacier, Kyoka admitted. What's he saying? Momo asked. How he's going to tell you his quirk gave him a kid, Kyoka informed. I beg your pardon? Momo stared at her blankly. Kyoka was interrupted by the sound of ice cracking. The glacier exploded, revealing Izuku glowing with blue energy, along with green lightning sparking out of him. Izuku Midoriya flexes off a glacier, folks. Present Mike exclaimed. The crowd cheered as another glacier was shot towards Izuku. The greenette simply swatting it away. You think you could win with just your ice, Todoroki-san? Izuku said as he began walking towards Shoko, but her reply shocked him. Not at all, bright red flames was unleashed on her left side. I have a better way to spite that man now, Shoko stated as she sent a torrent of flame at Izuku. That was easy, Izuku thought as the flames grazed by him. Izuku was practically fireproof due to his stats and his cloak of flames. The crowd was shocked when Izuku did not make any moves to avoid or block the flames. They became even more surprised when Izuku came out unharmed with a bright red cloak now on his back. Noon was more than Shoko as she watched him walk out her flames. I actually forgot about this, Izuku scratched the back of his head as he held the tip of his cloak. What? Shoko looked very confused. Oh well, Izuku's fist glowed with an orange hue. Focus punch. Izuku punched the ground hard. The stadium shook as a powerful shockwave hit the arena. Midnight and Cementos were blown of their podium. What the hell is this kid eating? Present Mike shouted. He doesn't even have a strength quirk, Eraserhead grumbled. Midnight managed to climb back on her podium just as the smoke was clearing. She saw Izuku still standing in the arena, while Shoko Todoroki was out of bounds. Izuku Midoriya wins, Midnight announced. Izuku hurriedly went to check on Shoko. He sighed in relief to see that she was fine, although a part of her uniform was burned. She looked fine. Shoko just sat on the grass. Why aren't you getting up? Izuku tilted his head in confusion as he offered a hand to help her. Carry me, Shoko stated. Ha? Izuku blushed. I can't get up. She was definitely lying, but Izuku couldn't actually prove it. Izuku shakily tried to carry her in a bridal carry. He carried Shoko to Recovery Girls Clinic. Once he opened the door, he found a smiling Momo. I need to talk to her, Momo said in a chirpy tone. Izuku ran for his life. Due to Izuku destroying the arena, it took some time for Cementos to repair it. Class 1A gave Izuku weird looks as he hid behind the railings. For the next match we have the goddess of creation Momo Yaoyorozu versus the speedster Tenya Iida. Present Mike introduced both fighters. A smiling Momo came out of tunnels, and Izuku hid behind the railing even more. Begin! Midnight announced. Recipro burst. Memory slot, Vanguard. Both of them shouted at the same time. Iida shot with amazing speed as Momo was encompassed by the light of her quirk. When Iida got close, he tried to push her off, only for him to slam into something solid. Momo was revealed to be wearing heavy armor with a shield drilled itself to the ground. The shield's hold on the ground was released and Momo threw a net over Iida. This will not hold. Iida was interrupted by a wave electricity hitting him. The winner is Yaoyorozu, Midnight announced. The crowd was silent as Momo's armor faded. She left the arena without losing the smile on her face. My condolences, Shoji said to Izuku. Eri found herself in a peaceful living room with two women. The green-haired girl kept giving her food and also gave her some new clothes. They were too big for her, but she had worse. The black-haired lady kept comforting her, showing her some stuff on a show on a television. The kind green-haired lady was called Gachi, while the black-haired lady was called Nana. They were very nice. They said someone called Izuku saved her from the mean bird men. They also said that she's safe here. Eri wanted to stay. For the next match we have the edgy bird ᴜᴇ'ʟ versus the Dakr horse from Gen Ed Nate Sawamura. Present Mike announced. Both fighters entered the arena. The brown-haired boy looked over his opponent just as Midnight spoke. Begin! Midnight announced. Sawamura shot forward with incredible speed. He muttered something as his speed drastically increased, tails of wind coming out of his body. ᴚᴇ'ʟ sent out Dark Shadow, but the sentient quirk couldn't catch Sawamura. Sawamura's body began to glow blue as he became even more faster. He landed a solid back kick to Dark Shadow's side, then proceeded to jump high into the air. You can't escape now, ᴚᴇ'ʟ said as Dark Shadow rushed at Sawamura. Hurricane! Sawamura exclaimed as tornado suddenly appeared and crashed into Dark Shadow. Sawamura landed a drop kick to ᴚᴇ'ʟ's chest, sending the boy flying out of the arena. Nate Sawamura wins, Midnight announced. Izuku just stared at the arena. This one is just a bad matchup. Itsuka Kendo was currently tangled in vines, unable to move. The scene was giving Izuku a little too many things to imagine about too. In the end, she was forced to surrender. Now it's time for the dreaded moment. Or it should have been.
Tio spice things up, we're doing the matches in the opposite order this time, President Mike informed.
That meant Sawamura and Ibara would fight first this time, Aizawa explained. After a short break, both fighters arrived at the arena. Begin! Midnight called out.
No, I just noticed nobody actually used any Pokemon, President Mike informed.
None of them are actually used to fighting with their Pokemon, or they just forgot, Aizawa added. Ibara sent out her vines, Sawamura began to glow again.
He moved fast as he avoided the vines.
Air slash.
Blades of wind severed the vines that were approaching Sawamura.
Aerial ace. He got even faster and rushed towards Ibara.
She sent out her vines to create a shield, but was surprised when something grabbed her waist. She glanced back to see a Pidgeot behind her.
The Pokemon flew with her in tow.
She tried to use her vines to get back to the arena, but blades of wind cut off any vines that came close to the arena.
Ibara was dropped outside the arena. Nate Sawamura wins. Midnight announced.
Something tells me he wouldn't have used his Pidgeot if we didn't remind him, President Mike commented.
Most likely, Aizawa agreed. Izuku finally confirmed something.